Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another movie episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's not going to heaven, but that's the C train with me tonight.
I'm Bill Tucker from A Gamer Looks at 40. And Mike, there are alligators in the sewers. I promise. I used to live there. Just kidding. There really isn't.
And this is Blair Farrell from comicbookvideogames.com. No relation to Colin Farrell. And Mike, you want B? You can have this lap dance here for free.
Golly.
Oh, and Bill, where can people find you at?
Oh, did I not say we're A Gamer Looks at 40 podcast? Yeah.
You were following the light towards the train for the C train.
You know, it's funny when you see your light flash in front of your eyes. Oh no, wait, it's a train. You know, you tend to forget some things. So I apologize for that.
So we bring you another Patreon voted episode. We had a tie between Daredevil and Punisher Warzone, but because I make the rules, we're doing Daredevil first. Punisher Warzone will be coming next month. You'll hear it, but I will do it. I'm definitely going to record about it. And I've never seen that movie either. So when we have a tie, you get both. So yeah, this is Patreon voted. You can also vote. Little's $1. So we are here to talk about Daredevil, the 2003 film directed by Mark Steven Johnson that I've never seen before somehow. I've always skipped this movie.
Neither have I. Yeah, neither have I. This was kind of a section of my movie watching where I really didn't watch comic book movies. I always figured comic book movies were for people who read comic books. And as I've said numerous times, I've never really read comic books. So I just kind of skipped them. And these movies were really not part of they did well. I mean, I was surprised. This movie made a whole bunch of money. People went out to see this thing. So
180 million. Budget was 78 million.
Yeah, that's not bad. I'll take that profit, you know. But
I saw this in theater twice.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah, I was so excited to see this because, like, I brought up in the Resident Evil episode how much I miss being ignorant of what movies are in production. Like, we essentially know like 5 years worth of movies like right now. As I remember 2002 going to see the movie Minority Report in theaters, and the trailers were playing before, and they just had this teaser of just like a camera going over a rooftop and it's a bunch of gargoyles, and then Daredevil. And I was like, oh my god, they made a Daredevil movie. And Daredevil wasn't one of my favorite characters growing up, but my brother and I were big Kevin Smith fans in the 90s, as you were. And then Kevin Smith was basically given carte blanche to kind of reboot Daredevil in the early 2000s. And that made me love Daredevil. So when the movie came out, and after Spider-Man and X-Men and Blade, I was so excited to see this. Actually, I think our theater it came out on Valentine's Day, I think on the 14th of February, and I got tickets for the 13th, and I was so excited I got to skip a day. I already had the soundtrack bought before I came in. If I wasn't a poor student, I would have probably owned the Game Boy Advance game too, but I own that now.
I didn't know that existed until we did our episode, which has not dropped yet. But I am curious. Okay. I don't know why I skipped. I saw Spider-Man. I saw X-Men. I saw all those movies. For some reason, like, I had heard people tell me over the years, this movie is trash. It's bad. So I just never saw it. And
you have good friends. You have good friends who lead you down the right path. You should hold on to those people dearly, because this is not a good movie. And, you know, this movie annoys me because I was watching this. All right, let's just get into it. First off, I mean, we could talk about the director, but he's done nothing of note. Mark Steven Johnson. He wrote a bunch of movies. He started as a writer. He wrote the first two Grumpy Old Men movies. If you enjoy those, cool. Then a bunch of stuff I've never heard of. And his first directorial effort was Simon Birch, again, a movie I've never seen before. But he directed Ghost. Is it any good, Simon Birch?
It's based on a book called A Prayer for Own Meaning by John Irving, and it's like essentially, I think it's like a fifth of like that novel. I remember it being okay. The book was way better. Well,
he did, and then of course Daredevil, I guess, was his first big one, and then he directed Ghost Rider, which evidently is just a trip as well. I heard Ghost Rider's not very good. Is the first one good or the second?
First one is fine.
Okay.
The second one is hot trash.
Well, I don't trust your opinion anymore. I don't trust your opinion
Vengeance. It's from the director of Crank 2. It has like that crankness about it.
He pees fire at one point when the kid asks him, "What happens when you have to pee?" As Ghost Rider, and he just starts peeing fire.
Yeah, it's a Nicolas Cage classic moment right there.
Not a bad one. Not bad. I'll take it.
I haven't seen this in theaters. I just remember being disappointed, but I haven't seen it since then. But no, I think the first Ghost Rider is a decent film. But I also think this is a decent film. So
I will plug Godzilla Mendoza, my friend Xavier Mendoza, who just dropped a video about both Ghost Rider videos, about both Ghost Rider movies. It's up by the time this will eventually come up.
this will be up in a week.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I sat down. I paid my $4 to Amazon Prime. Damn it. I went through all the rigmarole that Amazon Prime forces me to do. I don't know why. I can't just buy things from the app. I have to go to the website. I can't even do it from the app. I have to go to like a website, rent it, go to my wish list and the wish list and then play. I don't understand why I can't just play it. I don't know. But anyway.
You can't rent, because I've rented movies from Amazon. I can do it directly from my PlayStation.
I used to. I have no idea. It says, why can't I buy? And then it gives me no good information. And it says, go to a website. I have to go to the Amazon website. I have Amazon Prime. Maybe it's not Prime plus Max, whatever thing it is. I don't know. But anyway, I had to go through all this effort because, I love you, Mike. And I spent my $4 and I sat down thinking, okay, most people don't like this movie. It's got like a 40-something% on Rotten Tomatoes, which doesn't really mean much anymore. And I'm like, maybe I'll get some stupid fun out of this. Maybe this will be fun. I'm gonna sit down and have a good time. And I had a good time for the first 20 minutes or so. And then someone says a line, and Mike Albertin's, that's the line that broke me. That was the line that broke me. And I said, I can't. It hit me in the stomach. And then by an hour in, I'm like, I guess I'm gonna keep watching this. But I was lucky because it's only like an hour and a half long, so it's not.
Yeah, it's not a very long movie, which is nice. Oh no, I mean the line is it's so stupid. I was like, this is like ice skating uphill. Like, you don't need it.
That's a terrific line. You take that back.
But that one, I don't know. Gosh, it's just so clunky. My son, I've mentioned this. My son likes to tell jokes. But the problem is, my son's not very good at telling jokes because he's 7. And 7-year-old jokes are typically not good. He just says things that are real. And I tell him I'm laughing on the inside sometimes. I'm like, I'm laughing on the inside. It's okay. But sometimes he has a really good one. Like, he really comes out with a zinger, like really good. And I'm like, oh, that's really funny. Good job. Or I'll tell him, Will, think about that. Think before you speak. Work on the bit and then do it. And I promise you, the jokes that he says just off the top of his head in the car land better than nearly anything lands in this movie, with some exceptions. So my son in the car making up jokes about stop signs. What did the stop sign say to the other stop sign? I don't know, Will, what? Stop. Yeah, I know. Okay. I've said I think there's a world, by the way, where my son's become like an avant-garde comic where he just says jokes that are not jokes deadpan for a half an hour on stage and people laugh. Like an Andy Kaufman thing.
Like Norm Macdonald.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But none of the jokes are really jokes. They're just situational. Like, what did the tree say to the telephone pole? Stand there. And then nothing. And no attempt at audience interaction. Just stand there and stare at the audience for 45 minutes and then leave. There has to be humor there. I think my son's become an avant-garde alternate comic. But anyway, that would be better. I really, really actively dislike this movie.
I'm surprised that the theatrical version is the one that's... Because, Mike, you said you watch it on HBO Max, which I don't have here.
Which is also, I don't understand why this is on HBO Max. I mean, I guess they license it out because this is a Fox movie, so Disney owns it now. Yet Disney licensed out to HBO Max, and it's like, here, if you like this, here, watch Green Lantern, and it offered up me a couple other movies, and I'm like, this makes no sense.
I guess it might have been before the Disney deal. It might have been like something they signed before it happened.
Oh yeah,
because I mean, the director's cut doesn't make it better, but it makes some things make a lot more sense, and it actually changes some parts of the movie that make it a little bit better, which we'll get into, I guess, throughout the episode. But it's something that I listened to years ago. I listened to the episode of How Did This Get Made about this movie, and I mean, I've seen this movie a bunch, and I didn't even realize that like 90% of this movie is a flashback.
Yes.
Yes, good point. Yeah,
and it's not even it's not just a flashback. It's a, oh hi, like my name is Matt Murdock. I bet you'd like to know how I got here, like situation. Like to get you up to that, we're gonna have to go back to the beginning.
And then they're not even. He's not even narrating it for most of this movie. Like, he's narrating stuff as a kid, but when you get to the adult stuff that still is a flashback, he's not narrating anymore.
Yeah, which is
You're watching
fine.
it as it's happening.
But that's fine. I imagine that if he narrated the entire thing. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's fine. The kind of that cold open, of him landing. I was getting really annoyed early on. Again, we'll go as we go through it. We'll talk about it with all the religious symbolism. The kids laying in the room. There's a cross above his head. He's in the church, and I'm like,
that is a Daredevil thing.
Yeah,
is it?
Matt Murdock is hardcore Catholic.
Yeah, that's all. Oh, really? That's all actual. Like, they're being true to the source material.
That start where he's like hanging on the cross is like taken verbatim from Kevin Smith's run story, the Guardian Devil story from Marvel Knights.
Yeah, so I mean that's all comic stuff. Like, that's why I kind of liked it, because I usually don't give a shit about religious stuff. Like, I don't like it in things where it doesn't belong. But in here, it does fit like the whole idea of what they. I think, is that a Frank Miller thing where they went really into the Catholic stuff, or is that before then?
I don't know.
That's fine. I don't know either. I just know that I own a few Daredevil issues. Whenever I only read 6 of them in my life, but I do know the casting is very much him. So that's why it's so heavy on that in this movie, because it's to fit the character. But if you didn't know that, it doesn't give you that. It doesn't make any sense to the character, because nothing in this movie, like when it comes to that, really affects. They don't say a whole lot about it, like how much of it affects his life. They just skip it for some reason.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from, Bill. Like, I mean, if you're not familiar with the character, there's no reason for you to be like, what the fuck is this here for? Like, they don't explain it. They don't go like, oh, his dad died, so now he's in an orphanage, or he's with a nun, being taught, or something of that nature. They skip. They don't do any of that type of stuff. They just go, look, he's Catholic. Okay.
His mom is briefly in the director's cut. They show him at an orphanage for like a tiny bit of film. It's like you just see him in the orphanage with a nun, and like, just my knowledge on the comics, like I know his mom was a nun, so I guess you can assume that's there, but like that's just again cut out of the theatrical version.
Yeah, I guess it didn't bother. It was just one of those annoying things. Like, are we gonna do commentary on this now? But if that's part of the comic, then fine. I don't know.
Yeah, but it should have been explained. Like, well, I mean, something like to show, like, give something to show, like, why that he's religious. Like, it doesn't really show it.
Yeah,
he does a confessional every. I should have found the theatrical version again, because I know him going back and forth to
confession once in the film.
Yeah, I think he goes a few more times in the director's cut.
So I don't know. Did I watch the director's cut then? I watched it on Amazon, and I don't know. If...
Probably watched the regular version.
Did Coolio show up?
No, he did.
Then you watch the theatrical version.
Okay, because
you can't even find the director's cut that easy. That's why, like, I was gonna have us do it, but when I looked online, it's not easy to find.
Really?
And I don't think you can even rent it. I think you have to buy it. And I was like, I wasn't gonna make you. I was like,
because I figured it would have been a situation where they would have like actively tried to get rid of the theatrical version, because like there was somewhat of a turning around on this once the director's cut came out, and people were like, oh, this isn't like a 10 on 10, but it bumps it up to like a 6.57.
I'm looking right now, but I don't think it was that simple to find. Like, the one that you can rent or buy digitally is the regular cut. The director's cut, you have to actually buy the DVD.
Oh yeah, that's what I did. I just have the Blu-ray.
Yeah, but it's just weird, because I've heard over the years that the director's cut is the better version of it. But yeah, it's not. They don't make it simple, and that's why I'm like, yeah, we're not even going to bother. I'm not going to make you guys like that's. Yeah, otherwise because originally that was my plan, was just to watch director's cut, but it's not super easy to get.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, I guess. But yeah, this is not. So I watched. So I guess as we go through it, if you have the notes for the director's cut, we'll just you can just fill in the blanks for Matt. Because if Coolio showed up, I mean that's an instant point up. That's
you can't even get digitally. You would have had to spend $10 and buy this movie.
Look, if I spend $10 and bought this movie, I would have done something else better with the disc. I would have had to like, I don't know. My son got a bow and arrow for Christmas last year, but it's like a real bow and arrow with like real arrows. Like it's legitimate little kid's compound bow, which is great, but you can't use it because we don't have a target, and you can't throw it around the living room because it will literally go through the drywall. So maybe we could use that. We just bust out the that thing and use it for a little target practice. Here you go, Will. Finally use that bow and arrow someone got you and didn't think ahead and said, oh, this will be fine in a home. Anyway.
Yeah, that is weird, though. Okay.
Yeah, all right. So so anything else before we trot into this. Oh, I made this joke, I think, in our chat, our Facebook chat, messenger chat, where the best thing to come out of this movie is Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner's two lovely children. They they met on this movie, and they got married, and they were together for well over 10 years. Evan and my wife told me the whole story. She's like, oh yeah, I'm like, how long were they married for? She's like, I don't know, like well over 10 years, 2 kids. They met on the set of this movie. So
see, that's because I'm trying to get my Bennifer timelines here. Is I felt like J-Lo was like 2003. So I think Geely came in 2003 and Jersey Girl was out in 2004.
Is my wife telling stories out of school? Hang on a second now. I just accept that's true. I mean, I didn't. Let's be honest. I didn't care enough to.
Yeah, he's right. Geely is 2003.
I must be wrong then. I don't know. All right then.
That's a terrible movie, by the way.
Evidently, yes. I don't know.
Yeah, I watched it. It's bad.
Jennifer Gardner. Let's see.
This is where we go.
Rapture gets started.
Could you loop in some Entertainment Weekly music there, Mike Albertin?
And then get taken off the air.
I don't know anymore. Well, that's what I was told.
But hey, if they did meet that way, that is good. I mean, maybe because it's possible that I don't know. I don't want to look it up or find out or care enough.
Jennifer Gardner. That's right. Ben Affleck had an affair with their nanny. That's how that thing broke up. Nice job, Ben. But he was also in rehab, and she was kind of with him during his rehab stint. And then it was just, I think the nanny incident pulled it over. Anyway, if you really want to hear more about the sordid affairs of Jennifer Gardner and Ben Affleck, they were an item. They were married for quite some time.
It possibly could have met on here and was still sleeping with J-Lo at the same time.
I don't know.
It's just a movie, dear. We're just doing it for the movie. Yeah. I don't know my timelines.
So Ben Affleck is, of course, playing the lead in this movie. He plays Daredevil. He does not look like he wants to be there. He's having no fun whatsoever.
Well, because he's blind.
No, he's not actually, because he doesn't even wear the contacts all the time. Like the contacts that he's supposed to wear that make him blind, which evidently in the production made him almost kind of sort of blind. And the director, of course, being an idiot, is like, oh, that's great. Perfect. Use that. Use the fact that you can't see actor who needs to see and know where the camera is and know where people are in relation. So no, just stare off into nothing, because that's what blind people do every day.
I remember watching, because when they finally cut to him as an adult in his apartment and he's like folding the bills as he's going out. Because I remember watching, because I bought this on DVD when it came out because I really loved the movie for some reason. I still enjoyed it. I think it's fun, but they actually had someone who was blind to kind of teach him. It's like, okay, like when I go out, like this is how like I fold a 10. So when I pull a 10 out of my wallet, it's folded this way, and a 5 is folded this way.
Yeah,
so
is that a real thing?
Yeah,
that's cool. Okay, huh?
Like he kind of had it in like the cases, so it's like, okay, this is a 10, so I fold like a 10 like a certain way and a 5 a certain way, so I know like what bills I'm picking out.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I actually watched that and I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. I do like that bit. I don't like the fact that when they're standing there at the funeral, he does not have his contacts in at all. 100%. No contacts. Ben Affleck eyes. Oh, dreamy Ben Affleck eyes. No clouding, nothing. They left him in the trailer. He's like, my eyes are scratchy. It's been a long night of drinking. I'm just not going to do this anymore. And by the way, just so you know, I do want to vindicate my wife because I will defend her honor as her husband. They indeed, after starring in 2003's Daredevil, they became close friends. And by the end of summer 2004, their relationship had turned romantic. They were married in 2005 and were split in 2015, exactly 10 years. See, my wife's...
Yeah, if they did meet on there, he would... I mean, it also makes sense he's in a relationship.
My wife's copious reading of People magazine and Us and such has not let us down. So, fantastic. But he's having no fun in this movie. He really isn't. He's taking this role way too seriously. This is, I don't know. I think the tone of this movie is one of its biggest problems. I think, the fact it's PG-13 and interesting that's cut down from R, that makes sense because there is some pretty violent stuff. And I can tell just from some of the scenes of people getting shot and whatnot, like, ooh, looks like this should be gory. I bet this was cut for rating, and sure enough, it was. So
yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, but I don't know. He's just not having a good time. Maybe because he can't see. He's like, I need to see to act.
Well, he didn't do another superhero movie till Batman.
He said he would never do one. He said, I'll never do another superhero movie. I got it out of my system. Fast forward, I need money. This life's expensive after J-Lo. Let me be in Dawn of Justice. Yeah, that lasted.
Oh god, that movie's terrible.
Indeed. But anyway, that is true. So he's average. Jennifer Garner is fine, I think, as Elektra.
Oh, I really liked her in this.
She's fine. It's just they are dealt if you're a poker player, they are dealt a 7-2 offsuit with this horrendous script. This script is heinous. It is one of the worst scripts I think I have seen for this show. Obnoxiously bad.
I kind of went in reading some of the trivia, and I think one of the problems is like one with the director's cut, like that was what they wanted to do, and then the studio was like, no, there has to be more romance, so like we have to kind of skew that, because so this is like jumping way ahead, because they have the scene where he's on the rooftop with Elektra, and he's like, oh yeah, it's gonna rain, I can smell the moisture in the air, and then it happens. In the theatrical version, I'm pretty sure they stay together.
Yeah.
In the director's cut, he's like, I have to go. And then it cuts to him like beating the guy up in the house and the kids there. So like he just like bounces.
I think he still leaves in the regular version too. He just waits a little longer, but he does see her in the rain and he leaves.
Yeah, I for some reason I thought he stayed. It's been a spell. And I think, is it possible to like care too much? Because I can tell this guy really cares about Daredevil. He just tried to do too much. It's like, okay, we have to do like the Elektra thing. We have to do Bullseye and Kingpin. And in the director's cut, there's also like a case that Foggy and Matt are investigating, which is completely absent from this, which makes certain things not make sense, especially towards the end. And we'll kind of get there. So I think it's just trying to be too much. And then, yeah, like you have Ben Affleck just trying to be dramatic, and then Colin Farrell is just a cartoon character. Like, I love him.
I really do love him.
Being a cartoon character, but he's in like a
him.
different movie.
He is a man at a time. He showed up for 2 days, got that stupid stencil put in his forehead, and is just having an absolute ball. He's having fun. Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin is actually, I think, really good. I like him.
He is, yeah. He
is excellent at elevating garbage. He's really good at that. He's good. It's just your main protagonists are bad. I think they're very wooden. We'll talk about they have no chemistry. It's amazing that they actually became romantically involved after this film, because they seem like they have very little chemistry here.
She's pretty.
She is pretty. There's no question about that.
And he was rich, I think, at the time, so.
Yeah.
That might help the situation.
This was all after like Good Will Hunting and all. Ben Affleck is a known commodity at this point. Pretty sure.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah, so it's weird to see him do this type of movie.
But Jennifer Garner, like, was Alias her big thing? Like, was she in anything else? So she went from Alias to this.
Yeah,
she's in 13 going on 30, but I don't remember what year that is.
I mean, it was 2004.
Okay, that's a good movie too. I can't remember all this stuff. I mean, she's been in other stuff, but I didn't look up her filmography.
I think like this
time.
was kind of like the start of her kind of rise to fame.
Yeah, because I think Alias was really the main thing. So yeah.
Alias is where she really took off. She did that for years too. I mean, I didn't mind her in this. I mean, I definitely saw it with Matt, with Ben Affleck, where it feels like he doesn't want to be there. I can definitely agree with you on that one. Like, he just seemed kind of bored in the movie. I mean, it did kind of fit the character to a degree, but I kept thinking, like, I wish this was Charlie Cox. Because to me, that's the best version of Daredevil in live action.
Well, I mean, there's only been, what, 3?
I know, too. But I really like it.
Like, the guy from, like, the Incredible Hulk TV movie in the 80s, Ben Affleck, and this, and Charlie Cox.
No, I know. I just really like that, and that this kind of... But, like, to kind of go along, I really like the version of Kingpin that we get. Like, I think that he does a great job. And to kind of echo what you said with Bullseye, if it wasn't for the stupid bullseye in his head, I would have no problem with this character. I really hated that bullseye in his head. It bothered me a lot. I know it's a reference to the character because the character has a bullseye in his head, but that's because he wears a hat. And on the hat has, not like it's just carved into his head.
Well, what bothered me about it was, one, he's like this... Like, okay, we have to get Bullseye, who's the top assassin, to take care of this. He's the only person who can do it. And he kills a man. I love that introduction where he's just in the bar, just like throwing the darts. So he kills a guy, gets on a commercial flight. And in my brain now, in like the year 2023, I was like, okay, this was post 9/11. And this character comes to an international airport with like all this metal. It's like he is not getting on a commercial flight.
No, he's flagged immediately.
Yeah, not in that climate.
Well, he
No,
can
not
kill
to
somebody with
Hungary.
a peanut. He can kill an elderly woman who's just sitting there talking about. He can kill a casually racist old woman with a peanut, and that's that scene. I think just again, we got to go through this because I need to purge myself of the memories of this film. This actively aggravated me. But anyway, yeah, Ben Affleck. Yeah, but this was post Good Will Hunting. This post Armageddon, which is a movie I will defend. I will defend Armageddon until the very end. I like that.
Never
movie.
seen it. the
Hey,
way
there
through.
we go. Put it on the list because I like Armageddon quite a bit. I've seen it numerous times. It is stupid, but it's a good stupid because it's a fun stupid. This is not fun stupid. It's just stupid. Anyway.
All right. Well, like the kind of the way the movie starts off, like we were kind of saying, it just starts off with him on a cross, and it really is like, he falls down into the church, and then the priest comes, and then it's during that time that he says, he pretty much should just say, "You're probably wondering how I got here," instead of it being. That's what it should have been.
I was desperately trying. But before we get that, though, there's a couple things I noticed. First off, the very classy choice to make your credits out of Braille. That's great. Nice job, movie. Very
I
subtle.
didn't catch that.
Oh yeah, they're all like Braille
Yeah.
dots. Yeah,
And then
yeah,
it changes.
yeah, the Braille dots. have
I thought they
changed
were just
something.
buildings.
There are buildings that transform into Braille dots because that's what you can do with CGI. You see, so that's what they do. And then I saw it was by Marvel Entertainment something. Well, I wrote down Marvel Enterprises Inc. or something, which is very interesting because it wasn't Marvel Studios. Because I guess this was before Marvel
Yeah.
Studios
Yeah,
was
this
a
is way
thing.
before that.
And is this kind of that era when they were selling everything off and they were just hemorrhaging money? So please just produce these movies for us.
They had already sold it. Like I'm pretty sure they for the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, like Marvel themselves got very little in terms of like profits. Like on the back end, it was mostly Sony because they sold these rights for peanuts.
Yeah, because they sold everything in the 90s.
Yeah, hemorrhaging cash. So I just found that interesting. I'm so used to seeing Marvel, with the Marvel Studios, and to see it as a actual like corporation name, like a corporate thing, was very neat to me. And I remember what you guys always say is that in this era, they were they're not on a last leg, but really we're not doing great.
No, they were bankruptcy.
Well, the comics they did a turnaround in the late 90s because they had stuff like Daredevil from Marvel Knights, and you had Ultimate Spider-Man. Then X-Men came out, and kind of Grant Morrison's new X-Men took off. And then you had Spider-Man, of course, in 2002, and Blade. And because this year, like Daredevil was in February, X2 was in May, and then Hulk was in June. And Hulk has its offenders, like my friend Josh from Panels of Pixels being one of them. I don't really care for it. I like some things about it, but like everyone was expecting Spider-Man like after that. And I think this is what they were kind of like, okay, we have like another guy in a red suit who swings from rooftops.
Yeah.
Like let's try to like, get some of that in here.
Yeah. Was this also around X-Men too, right? X-Men was going on around
It was
the same time.
year. It was like
Was it?
this was
Okay.
February, X2 was in May, and then
Okay,
and Hulk was in June.
Isn't X2 pretty good?
Oh, it's terrific.
Is it? Okay, see, I've seen all those. Maybe I was watching more of the X-Men movies at that time. I remember X and X2 being pretty good. I remember from X3 was, I think, Magneto moves a bridge, and it's just like, oh, God. Could just see over there. But that's the only thing I remember from X3, I think. But anyway.
X3 is just bad.
Yeah, so that was...
Kelsey Grammer as Beast is inspired casting.
Fair.
I haven't seen it in years, though. I need to rewatch those.
It's better than what you think, even though Brett Ratner is a piece of shit.
Yeah, I do know that.
But yeah,
But
so
then so was Bryan Singer, so like...
I don't remember.
It turns out people that have power and money aren't good people sometimes. Who would have thought that?
Power corrupts. Just like the Kingpin. I'm sure the Kingpin was a perfectly nice human being until he got all that. But,
Well, no, because he kills them when he's just a hitman. So
That's true. Very good point. Right. I wasn't paying
So-
that much attention. So
after he falls
Yeah,
into the
okay,
church,
sorry.
you get the
Yeah.
first flashback, which the first flashback makes sense because it's him as a kid, and it really kind of shows you how he becomes the Daredevil. They do all that. It shows him, like, there's a lot of good scenes with him and his dad. You can also tell that Heineken supported this movie because there's a bunch of Heineken bottles throughout this movie that they make
True.
sure you see the Heineken logo.
Oh yes. Oh yes. The reporter, whatever his name is, has a prominently quaffing a Heineken at the fancy ball. While everyone else is,
Daredevil's Heineken, Spider-Man was Carlsberg.
Heineken's not even that good of a beer. But I guess they had to have it. They needed somebody to pay for them.
Yeah,
here you go.
I liked him as a kid. That actor just like training, like kind of showing him like learning like the echo. Like I really like the effect of like how he sees the world in this.
Same.
Like that's something that I really like. But something that's like kind of hard to watch is like, okay, I get the bullies at the start because they're like, okay, they're picking on him, but then he's blind, and then the bullies are like doubling down.
Oh yeah, totally.
I'm like, oh man, this is like some. I mean, he beats him because he has like Daredevil powers.
I mean, it is Hell's Kitchen, I guess. So
wildly inconsistent.
Well, I will say first thing, I really enjoyed the beginning 20 minutes because it's all of actors I really like in properties I like way more than this. Because Robert Iller is the main bad guy. He's AJ Soprano in The Sopranos, and that's the only thing he's ever done other than this and I think one other movie. So it was really fun. I was like, AJ. Hey AJ, every 3 months I get into a Sopranos loop because I love The Sopranos. I grew up in The Sopranos neighborhoods. I grew up in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and that's where all that stuff was shot and takes place and cast and everything. So it was cool to see him. I was like, look at you, AJ. And this was actually in the midst of Sopranos. Like Sopranos in 2003 was already cemented as like top tier prestige HBO television. So it was really interesting to see him just, I guess, breaking character. And maybe he's a comic book fan. I don't know. And he said, I want to be in Daredevil. All right, go ahead, AJ. Great character for show up for an afternoon and make fun of a blind kid. That can be your character for this film. It was just weird to see AJ Soprano in that era, right?
I knew he looked familiar, but I didn't know where he was from.
Yeah, it's AJ.
I've never seen Sopranos yet.
Oh, it's great. Oh, man. I love Sopranos so much. Yeah, so he's in there, and then the actor who plays the main, I guess the bad guy who tells Palooka Joe, whatever his name is, his father, hey, take the dive, and the dad doesn't because he wants to impress his son. He wants to show his son good things. That guy, that's Hector Salamanca in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. It's like, hey, it's Hector Salamanca.
I did recognize him.
What's going on, man? He's also, of course, a wonderful turn in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective as the landlord. It smells like pets in here. I can hear them scratching around. It's him.
And it's great because he drops all the people. It's like, okay, you beat. Like, you think you beat these guys, like Mac and Bendis. Like, those are callbacks to the people who were working on Daredevil at the time. I think there's a few others. I think, like, the name Quesada is dropped. Like, Joe Quesada from Marvel.
Yes. I didn't. And then also there's a Jack Kirby, isn't it? Like, I heard
a Kirby reference. There's a Romita reference.
Yeah, Kevin Smith plays Mr. Kirby. Jack Kirby is see how much I read comics. He's like a author, artist person.
Yeah.
Jack Kirby.
Is he the creator of Daredevil? I didn't look this up, Blair.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I know like Stanley and Jack Kirby just created like a bunch of these people back in like the 60s.
It just sounds familiar. Sorry. All the comic book people are now throwing things at me virtually in their brains. Like, how do you know who Jack Kirby is?
Well, Jack Kirby is one of the people who really made a lot of characters in early Marvel and later on DC, all the New God stuff.
I remember hearing his name in Pawn Stars because someone kind of brought in a print by Jack Kirby. That's the only real reason I really remember that name. Oh, and the Ninja Turtles, How This Got Made thing. He was very inspired by Jack Kirby. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all flooding back to me now. So anyway.
Also, Ninja Turtles originally were based on their plan was to base them on Daredevil, kind of. Like the ooze that hits Daredevil is supposed to be the same ooze that makes the Turtles.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
that was their idea. I mean,
in the first Eastman Laird book, like you actually, I'm pretty sure you see Matt Murdock crossing the street when like the ooze, like it's meant to like literally take place at the same time when he gets his powers is when the turtles like become mutants.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you liked the sonar effect of him seeing the world. It got really distracting after a time. It got really, especially during the action scenes, which we'll talk about, we'll talk about the action scenes, but I will state right now that The Matrix, I really think, did more harm than good in the universe. It really did. I mean, I like The Matrix a lot. I still think it's a good movie, but boy, oh boy, once that movie hit, you could not have an action movie without some sort of slow motion nonsense and kung fu kickery. The Matrix did a lot of harm here, I think, era especially. But Yeah, so he sees his dad being a thug. After his dad told him, he gets hurt, and now he gets splashed in the face with acid. His eyes are all jacked up. The scene with him in the hospital, waking up and then hearing everything super loud, like he has giant horns on his ears, that was actually pretty good. I actually like that. That kind of just panicked. What in God's name do you do? I don't know why no nurse showed up. I mean, his heart.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Like, there really should have been a nurse pretty quickly.
Jumping out of his bed, I'm surprised somebody just walk in and like comfort the child. But again, overthinking it.
For me, thinking about it, it's like, well, him and his dad don't have a lot of money. They live in America. They're probably not in like a top quality hospital.
True.
So it's like you get what you get. You get what you pay for.
And not for nothing, but I think Daddy Dearest really did his son a disservice. If he has an issue where everything is over amplified, which for the most of the movie doesn't seem to bother him at all. It only bothers him selectively when he's, I don't know, jumping off of organ pipes or whatever stupid thing the plot needs you to do. Other than that, he seems to be perfectly fine with this. He lives wouldn't you move your son out of New York City?
And
New York.
And that's the thing when I was just watching it, because I guess they want to put in like, okay, this is like a kryptonite, like it's all this sound really just like amplifies everything. But I mean, I've never been to New York, but I'm assuming just living there is an absolute nightmare of noise.
It's constant. I looked this up, and this is as long as I have a fact in my head, I just want to confirm it. The average decibel level of New York City is 85 decibels. That is the same decibel of a running lawnmower. So imagine living in a city that always has the sound of a running lawnmower or something of that intensity in your ears. It's why I never slept, because I'd leave the bar at 2:30 in the morning because they're open till 4. And there's just still be tack cabs just like it was 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's like, I'm assuming you learn, like, if you have those powers, you'll learn to like hone in on it. But then it's like,
that's kind of what I figured. But then if you're in the middle of a battle against, Colin Farrell and he's banging the pipes around, I would think you'd have the same amount of discipline. And all the guns going off, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it makes sense he's not using a gun. It's probably sensitive to it. But like, you've trained yourself to filter these things out. Again, just the movie being dumb and plotty and fine, whatever. But that was a big thing for me. Like, why would you stay here? Go to Connecticut.
That's a good point.
Move to Jersey. Go across the George Washington Bridge and move to Clifton.
Everything's like so close to New York too in that area.
Yes, and he lives in Hell's Kitchen, which, by the way, is my wife's neighborhood. When she lived in New York, well, she lived in a lot of neighborhoods, but her last neighborhood before she moved with me was Hell's Kitchen. It's not that bad. It's actually nowadays pretty decent, but it's none of this. We were watching the movie and, of course, putting our New York snobbery on, saying that's not New York. That's not New York. And of course, none of this movie was actually filmed in New York. It was filmed in Los Angeles. I had to look that up, and I'm like, sure enough, no. Yeah, I nailed it. It was none of this movie was actually shot in New York because they were trying to save money, and New York is very expensive to shoot in. So anyway, so it was.
Did like the little like both the Murdochs training. You have a little scene like with that after he's been blind. I did like that. You have the Stan Lee cameo where you're going across the street and you save Stan Lee's life. It was awesome.
Yep.
It made me sad. I was like, oh yeah, he passed. Like, we don't get those anymore.
No, you just get robot CGI Stan Lee now. That's what.
Not yet, but we're going to.
Of course we will. We'll just resurrect him from the digital grave and just like parade him around. Hey,
somebody signed the papers for him.
Did they really?
Yeah. Well, yeah. They're already working on it. Like, I mean, someone who owned whoever the hell owned them. I mean, they were just making money off them anyway near the end. Yeah. But so yeah, we'll get a digital Stan Lee. But I'm like, this was like, oh, Stan Lee. Like, it's just cool in that little part. And one thing that did bother me, like, you have the whole scene of like where you have the fight, you have him approaching him, telling the father to throw the fight, and the whole when he doesn't throw the fight, I don't think this is comic accurate. He goes in there, this part's kind of accurate. He doesn't throw the fight, he gets killed. But when he gets killed, the guy who kills him, which we find out a Kingpin, throws a rose on his body. If I remember correctly, Kingpin doesn't throw roses on the body. That was his son in the comics. But I don't read enough comics.
His son had an alias called the Rose. I'm not sure if that was his MO or if it was just an alias.
The only reason I know that because I bought that comic.
All I wanted was "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal to play every time that thing came down on someone's body. But I was like, ooh, wrong movie. That's Batman Forever. That's not this movie, which is another movie I'll halfway defend to the death. Anyway, yeah, I liked a lot of the training stuff. It was fine. You're learning about him. I don't know how I understand that he has lost his sight Okay, his eyes got splashed with turtle ooze. Evidently, now he's blind. It fused his optic nerves and made brain things happen where he can see things and he can balance and he has no fear because he's Mr. YOLO, live once, whatever. And I don't know how he can like leap from tall buildings with a single bound though. I don't understand that.
That's what's wildly inconsistent because in watching it, he mentions like something about enhanced strength, or like his sense of touch gives him enhanced strength. But I was like, okay, well,
which
if you
makes
have
no sense. But yes,
enhanced strength, like being with ladies must be a real pain in the butt. If you're like touch is that sensitive, like just Lonely Island jizz in my pants, like. And then like when the first times he's Daredevil, he just like leaps off a skyscraper, does a flip and like lands on like a window washing station. I'm like, your legs would be broken.
Yeah, it's too far.
Like he it's not like he has like Spider-Man powers. Like Spider-Man has like super strength, and so that I'm just like, okay, his leather suit is not like bracers that are like protecting him from this fall.
He doesn't have like shell shoes on from Portal where it just kind of absorbs every impact.
There's nothing that special about him. It makes no sense that he was okay because he's not like he doesn't have superpower. He's just a regular guy who's blind, who does have some extra senses and can fight, but he's not like he's not Spider-Man.
And it's interesting because, and again, for those of you who are listening to this, if you're still listening to this after our Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner relationship conversation, I apologize. I apologize retroactively for that. That was kind of too much. But if you're still listening to this,
it was fine.
I lost my train of thought. Sorry, hang on. Okay. It may sound like we're overanalyzing this. Again, people are probably saying it's just a dumb early 2000s superhero movie. They're all dumb, recognize it, but now we can enjoy this for funzos. I'm trying to just watch this movie. I am here at this moment trying to enjoy this. I am sat down. This movie is supposed to be terrible, but you know what? I may have fun. And I'm trying so hard to have fun. The movie will not let me have fun because it keeps doing stupid things. And this is, again, one of those things where I'm like, how can he do exactly what you were just saying? He's just a guy, right? If he was just a guy who was good at, learn kung fu and learn martial arts and train with his dad, that's fine. You can do that. That's perfectly fine. It's New York. You can jump from buildings. They're super close together, right? You can have that kind of action. I don't know. It just, again, another one of those things where people are saying we're overanalyzing. Maybe. But at this point in my watching experience, I am desperately trying to enjoy myself. And I had a couple of really good laughs early until I no longer laughed anymore.
That's one thing I will give this a leg up over the Netflix series is that, like, when the Netflix series started, they were like, okay, we're going to go super dark. And that's great because a lot of Daredevil stuff is, like, dark. Like, I remember even, like, when Mark Waid took over the book in 2011. That's what the Daredevil I was reading when the Netflix series started. And he was essentially said, there's only so much beating down of Matt Murdock you can do. Like, I just want to have him smile. And it was a very much lighter Daredevil and more acrobatic in the Netflix series. It's very much just like him on the streets, just like punching people. So I liken this how, like, he just has a silly grappling hook and he does like acrobatics. Like, I do like that stuff. And, as someone who's like a comic books person, like, the costume is what it is. It's of the era, but I like having a big dumb deity on the front. Which you still haven't got in any of the Marvel Studio stuff. And maybe you'll be in Daredevil because, like, it was like in season 1 of the Netflix show, he gets a costume. Season 2, he loses it. Season 3, he's just like in black again. And then in She-Hulk, they have the nice little yellow throwback. So I'm curious to see what the new Daredevil suit will look like.
And the Daredevil, and the Daredevil Netflix series is good, evidently, right?
It is.
Okay.
It is. Yeah.
I didn't finish it, unfortunately. I only watched season 1 and 2. I've never got around to 3.
Season 3 is good, but it almost feels like a remake of season 1.
I don't know. It's on my list. And at this point, I'm like, well, I'm just going to wait until I record.
I have too much media to ingest in my life. I have too much to do, so maybe not. But maybe, again, when I'm old and addlepated, I'll say, you know what? I remember 40 years ago, I was on this show, something found.
As good as those are, too, like, they do go on, like, 13 episodes, and they're all an hour long. It goes on for a bit long, so it is, like, a commitment. Like, it's good, but, like, you have to be in the mood for that.
I'm not watching anything else serialized until I finish Better Call Saul, because that show is so freaking good.
I haven't watched it yet. One day.
Oh, so good.
Oh, and then the next part really got me. So then it cuts what I thought wasn't a flashback anymore, but it's still a flashback, but he's not a kid anymore. It's when he's an adult and he wakes up in a coffin bed because since he can hear so well, he sleeps in water in a coffin.
Yep, that's a yep.
But the water part got me because, like, what happened if you turn? You go, like, you know.
So my wife had to explain this to me. So sensory deprivation tanks are a real thing, and they're salt water, and they're highly, highly salty. So salty that you actually always stay afloat. You cannot sink.
Yeah, he pours salt in, I think. Or at least he does in the director's cut. You see him, like, grab salt.
He doesn't in the regular version.
No, he didn't do it.
Oh, yeah, in the director's cut, you see him just, like, get a few scoops of salt and put it in there.
Yeah. So my wife had to instruct me on that one. I had no idea. So kind of like when in Stranger Things, when she's in that sensory deprivation. Sensory deprivation.
Like when they make one for the pizza place, yeah.
Yes, which is great. God, another one we should do. That's right. You did the first season of Stranger Things.
I did the first season, yeah. I've been meaning to do more, but that has not happened yet.
They're wonderful. Get that SEO. Make sure you time it up with the final season that comes out. Get those clicks, my friend. Get them.
It never seems to work for me.
Since I did a Mario episode, no one cared. It's great. No, I did a Mario movie episode. It was very. Anyway, it's fine. So so he wakes up in this sensory deprivation tank. Him kind of in his lair, in his Daredevil lair. That's fine. Him just kind of moping about.
I liked it.
See, I had questions about that because I like in the Netflix show he talks to Rosario Dawson's character and essentially says, like, I have a really big apartment that I get for super cheap because it's essentially like Seinfeld where he's right outside of Kenny Rogers' Roosters. And there's a big red light coming through, so no one wants to rent it. But for him, he's blind, so it doesn't matter. Because in this, they established that, like, he has a law firm with Foggy, who's Jon Favreau in this. And I absolutely love their relationship. I love Jon Favreau in this. And they essentially get paid in, like cheese wheels and sporting goods. But he has this giant apartment with, like, a separate section just for daredeviling and, like, 5 or 6
in New York.
Scenes. Yeah.
It's not like he's in the middle of nowhere. We're like, yeah, we got this giant apartment for, $500 a rent. Nobody lives here. But, like, yeah, no, it's New York.
Yeah, I've kind of flushed that from my brain. The fact that no one seems to know how much things cost in New York in movies is fine. But yeah, that's I had the same thoughts. Like, yeah, rent's incredible there. He's a lawyer. Oh, he gets paid in cheese wheels and sports equipment. I guess fine, whatever. I will say that Jon Favreau is my favorite part of this movie. Every time he's on screen, the movie has fun, and I have fun with it. Every time he leaves the screen, I go from Mike, you and I are diametrically
They have
opposed.
Great banter. Like, it's so good.
Like it. So good. I almost called him Mikey, like from Swingers, because he has such a Swingers vibe in this. Like him, and it has a very Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau banter back and forth. As much if you like Swingers, don't like Swingers. If you feel like it's aged well or not, can't say that. But it's they have that really fun banter. Every time he's on screen, I am in glee, and then when he leaves, I am glum. It's not. He's great. I really enjoyed him in this movie. He's actually allowed me to have fun and enjoy it. So
great. I don't have a reason. I don't know. I didn't really care for him, but that could just be. I really like Foggy in the Daredevil Netflix show. I like that actor for him, and it wasn't the same. So that might again. It's probably just a me thing.
Mike's a big Mighty Ducks fan.
I'm not actually. I just really liked him in the Netflix show. I didn't care for the first trial that they have because, like, one thing about Daredevil, he's supposed to be a good lawyer, and in this, you don't get enough trial stuff with him. Like, you get the one trial in the beginning with the rapist that he loses the case, and it's just like he's supposed to be a decent lawyer, and like you don't see that in this movie.
Well, I mean, he is a good lawyer, but it's establishing that essentially, like, the Kingpin is bought and paid for, like, his defense, which is something that is great about the director's cut. Because this breaks into kind of like the first real Daredevil section because he loses a case. And then once he kind of retires to his home in the director's cut, that's when it starts another one because he's about to go into a tank and then he hears like a woman getting shot and dying, but he just ignores it and just flops in his tank. And that kind of sets up B plot with Coolio, who plays a character who essentially gets framed for the murder of that person. And that kind of string leads to kind of the police connecting the dots to that murder to the Kingpin, which makes the ending make a lot more sense because, I mean, we're bouncing around the places. At the end, he's like beats a Kingpin and he says, "Oh yeah, the police are coming to get you." And he's like, "No, don't you hear the words out on the Kingpin?" But nowhere in the theatrical version does it establish that they would know that. But that's something that was just chopped out of what was initially going to be there.
So wow. Okay, ahead. Continue. I'm sorry. I
was wondering too, because that made
I was like flummoxed by this news.
I was like, did I miss something? I'm like, where the hell did they mention that?
Clearly, it was cut out because there's a whole thing about like they're like investigating a murder of this person, and it's actually a great scene because like when he's in court, he can hear the heartbeat and he knows someone who's lying. And then there's a cop on trial during the Coolio case, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's telling the truth." But then he finds that he's lying, but he has like this amazing car. So then he like jumps in the car and he's like, "Oh hey, I always want to drive one of these things." And he's like blind. The guy's freaking out. And then he finds out he has like a pacemaker. So he's like, "Oh, that's why I couldn't get you," which is something that's cool.
That's neat.
And that's the thing about the director's cut. It's almost like the theatrical version is not enough and the director's cut is too much because
sounds like it.
I'm someone who like I would watch a Daredevil series that's like very little Daredevil and a bunch of like Law and Order legal drama. And there's like very long stretches between him being Daredevil to put in all of this stuff, which makes it like a little bit annoying, but it's still kind of interesting. But for people who just kind of want to watch a guy in like a suit smash people, like I can kind of see why they kind of chopped it up like they did.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And it's interesting that they cut an entire B story that actually links up and makes the ending make it look a sense. Because again, I'm like,
makes no sense.
It makes literally no sense. It's like, why are the cops? Actually, at that point, I'm like, it's over. It's over.
Like, thank God.
I really didn't care at that point. It's like, it's over and we're good.
And it's so crazy because like Matt and Foggy go to investigate something and they find out that the girl who died wrote something it was like the last thing she wrote, and it's like mom, MOM. But then they find out that essentially it's supposed to be wow, because Wilson's assistant, his name is Wesley Owens something. And that's the link that gets them from like killer to the Kingpin.
Jeez Louise.
Okay. I mean, that still would have been cooler to have something, because like throughout this movie, you do have little scenes like, here, you have another scene later where there's like, oh, the Kingpin, you hear stuff about the Kingpin, and it's like, they don't do anything with the Kingpin till the end of this movie. I'm like, I know the Kingpin's in this movie. I know there's going to be a fight, and I was just waiting for it.
So, yeah. Anyway, and then after, because again, he's, and when Ben Affleck, of course, after the courtroom scene in the theatrical version, that's when he decides he's going to exact some justice. The only way this city understands, and the only type of justice we understand. His suit up is just lightning fast. I went, yay, a suit up scene. I
liked it.
Yeah, me too. It's so corny. I love it. I don't understand why he has to do like the whip around with his like cable.
Oh, it was great. And I actually did genuinely have fun. I was like, this is so stupid. It's fun. And that was what I wanted. And I get it for most of the film.
I really love that first fight scene where he's in the bar. Even like there's something, I don't know, we touch on like there's a lot of licensed music in this.
Oh, yes.
And the first fight scene, I don't know if it's like Nickelback or Chad Kroeger featuring someone, but it kind of slaps. I kind of love it. And just the way the song will kind of like go down depending on like what he's doing and then kind of go back up. I thought it was like a cool introduction and showing like, the bullets whizzing by and how you can like track people in a room.
The fact that he can see a bullet whizzing is so stupid. It's ridiculous. Because again, I kind of like what you were talking about with the TV show that I'll never see, is where he's just kind of a dude that fights things, but can't see a bullet. I can't give you that much, movie. I can only suspend my disbelief so much. I did think in that scene, I think half the music cues in this movie work. The other half do not. But lots of Evanescence,
disagree.
lots of Evanescence. That actually, from what I read, Bring Me Back to Life, their big hit was from this soundtrack. Like that was.
It is. I heard it on the soundtrack before the music video came out.
Yeah, which actually, and that's a great song. I do like that song. I have a strong disdain for nu metal. I remember it brings back poor memories of how I was an idiot and liked it. I'm sorry, that's mean. If you like nu metal, I'm sorry. That was truly mean. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Very intelligent people like nu metal. I have a member of a Discord server where their entire music section is all about nu metal. They're always posting like, oh, and I'm like, great. None of this speaks to me.
You got to be in the right phase, I think. Like I was really into some of this music when I was very depressed with my life, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to hear this type of stuff. And I'm listening to 3 Days Grace, and now I'm like, no, I'm good.
I had my Linkin Park phase as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I always did. I always disliked Papa Roach. I don't know why anyone would like that now.
I disliked him when I was younger. I disliked him when I was depressed. I still dislike him. Garbage.
Same. I just don't have an affinity for the era of music where everyone was singing out of their asshole. Everybody just singing out of their butts in that era.
No, it is a Nickelback song, "Learn the Hard Way," which I actually don't know because I know almost all their music. That's not. But I know a lot of Nickelback.
Really?
I actually don't know that song.
Are you a Nickelback fan?
Yeah, I seen them in concert actually. Put on a really good show. Really good show.
My brother saw them live. Said the exact same thing. He said it was great, and then they
put on a great show.
Yeah, he said it was a good show. Anyway, but yes, the soundtrack's a big part of this, and I suspect because this was actually in the era too where soundtracks for movies was a big deal. The licensed music. I remember like the Batman soundtracks, Batman Forever especially, was a big deal. The Batman and Robin soundtrack was a big deal. This era, the licensed music in a film was a big part of selling it. And there was definitely full of it in this one. Yeah, I think for the half and half worked, and I think this scene, you're right. I think it does work. I like it in general,
especially when the Evanescence stuff comes in. I was like, "Bring me to life." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all on board."
That's great. That's an excellent song. It's great. But with the fight scenes though, I couldn't see what was going on because it was constantly flashing. Again, a la Blade 3, it was constantly flashing and on and off, and I had a very hard time. Then it's going to his sonar sense, and his sonar sense all blue pixels, and I'm like, I had a very hard time tracking it, and that might just be a me thing.
I didn't, and I was actually, I think it was funny because you had a comment in our chat like no one has the right to like make fun of like new Marvel movies when this thing exists, and I was thinking about how much like actually this first fight scene is more memorable than like anything. Like I can't remember anything from like say like Black Widow, or I can't think of any other Phase 4 Marvel movies, but like this particular thing stuck with me. Yeah, I guess I don't remember anything about Eternals.
No one knows.
There might have been a dance sequence, and Patton Oswalt was in a post-credit scene. That's really about it. About how like all these years later, I'm like, oh yeah, like I can follow this. It looks cool.
I don't know. I felt it was a little too chaotic for me, and maybe it was. I don't know. It bounced off of me a bit. It was neat, and again, I liked the gunplay and everything else, and of course the rapist gets his comeuppance as they should, as we will see momentarily.
I didn't care for that because I don't like the whole idea that Daredevil's he's not like the Punisher. He is more of a hero, and in this, like the whole idea that he goes after rapists, but he kills them. I mean, he pretty much commits murder. Like he knocks him into the train tracks, and I mean, it's essentially I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. But
yeah, the whole murder manslaughter thing I can't stand. Like,
but also he fucking yells at him. You know, like the dumb quote that I said earlier at the top of the show. We mentioned once before. Like, if you see that light, that's not heaven, that's the sea train. I'm just like, it's hilarious, but like this is stupid.
Yeah, then we don't know what the city thinks of him, like what public opinion is. On Daredevil, because like later on you see him break into a guy's house and he's like beating on him, and he's one of the Kingpin's cronies, but then a kid's there and he's like, don't hurt me, and he's like, I'm not the bad guy.
You gotta say it the right way. I'm not the bad guy, am I? I'm not the bad
guy. That was the moment where it broke me. I literally exclaimed, and it was one of many exclamations during the course of this movie, and my wife hated this as well, so we were in lockstep on this one, and just going, oh no. Boom! Like it was so bad, that line. So terribly bad. And there's other ones that are
not only that he killed this guy, and then a blind man then took the time to make a very perfectly stenciled DD in lighter fluid. I mean, that's cool. Like, I think it looks cool. But when you think about like I think about this in The Dark Knight Rises, where it's like, oh, the bomb's gonna go off. It's like, yeah, but then I gotta go on this building and make this trail that forms a bat thing. It looks cool, but the logistics of it are like so stupid.
Oh, he was fine. He was just knocking on the ground like this, making his sonar go off. But as he put the lighter fluid on, no, you're totally right.
Yeah, you're not gonna flee from a murder. You're gonna like first stop to make it's like, oh, I have to make this.
It wasn't necessary. I would have rather just like skipped it. But I did like Ben Urich, and that's the whole point of that scene. But I also just really, really like that actor a lot because he's in Fugitive and U.S. Marshals.
Joey Pence.
Yeah,
I like him. He's a great character actor.
He's excellent. Yeah, I saw him. I was like, hey, it's Ralphie from The Sopranos. Hey, Ralphie. Because he's a huge part of season 3, I think. Huge arc in that.
I just always know him from Fugitive, and then he plays the same character in U.S. Marshals, which is a semi-sequel to Fugitive. Yeah. Good movie.
The one thing I will state, this is for those who care about this sort of thing. Evidently I do, because I live in New York. People are probably sick of me saying that, but there is a 50th Street station. That is, the C train goes through it, so they were actually accurate. That is the 50th Street station. Now, they didn't shoot it in New York because that would require somebody to close that station, and that's expensive. But there is a 50th Street station that's on the C and the E, same subway line. And that is accurate. So the C train joke is really a joke that would work in the context of the movie and where it is. So there you go.
Okay. And then you have him go back to his hideout after this, or after the whole murder scene. And like this is when the girlfriend's breaking up with him over the voicemail, which I was like, okay, this is kind of funny. Completely unnecessary, but kind of funny. She's like, you never show me your apartment. You always leave at 3 a.m. I'm just like, stupid.
Like, yeah, girlfriend, leave. Absolutely. But it was only, she's like, it's been 3 months and I've never seen your place. And I'm like, again, this is kind of just the film trying to show us that he's a loner, that he is dedicated to his sense of justice, that the sacrificing of relationships. Okay. Okay. Little ham-handed, a little obvious, but
yeah, it's a phone call and it sounds like it's literally phoned in.
It was unnecessary. It was just like, okay. I mean, it could have been much shorter. It just could have been, we're done, Matt. We're done. I can't do this. Or something like that. And then just leave it at that.
Yeah, but it's also set to like him kind of like getting back and like his, he's like pulling out the tooth and like you see all the scars and him bloody. So you actually see like the physical toll of what this is doing him. And as well as like kind of like the emotional toll of like, he can't have a normal life or relationship because he has to leave in the middle of the night and just go be Daredevil.
Yeah, all this is fine. Again, I'm now watching this movie as this is stupid, and I'm now expecting stupid things. But again, like you said, Blair, it's fine. I'm not going to complain about it.
And I have other things to worry about. You were talking about, Blair, when he gets into the coffin, that would have had like the screen that he ignores that leads into the other stuff that's in the director's cut.
Yes, that's like the Kickstarter of like the new B plot with the new murder trial.
Okay, and then just right after this, you have Matt at confession, which again, I don't think you really need. That's a kind of where, like, it also is incorrect confession because they can see each other when they should not supposed to be able to. I think I never confess because I'm not.
He kind of knows who he is, anyways. They kind of have an like established relationship because as he makes a joke, like I don't care for the costume.
Yeah, he knows who he is.
Yeah, the priest is in on it, which is that's fine. If in the confessional in a Roman Catholic church, there's usually a little door you can slide up. There is a screen, so you can kind of see the priest in there, or you can close it completely and not see the priest. You have the option to do either one. As if I remember from doing that all the time when I was 9. So that is going into a dark, scary room.
I've done confession.
Yeah, I do it every week, after CCD, and they would tell you 5 Hail Marys, 5 Our Fathers. You say, okay, good. And then you just lie 10 minutes later, go, dang it! Like, it's like eating candy after a dentist appointment. You're like, come on! My teeth were clean for like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden I just mow down on a Milky Way. Damn it! Oh, well.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, it was funny. And this was a good part with Foggy when they're at the restaurant and he's being stalkerish even before she comes in, where he can like smell her and he's all like, and they're talking about the woman that comes in, which is kind of like, I mean, there were parts about this that were cool that I enjoyed. At the same time, I'm like, this is kind of cringy, but I still enjoyed it. Like I puts the mustard in the coffee because he thinks he's not paying attention.
This is just the right amount of messing with your blind friend. The AJ Soprano's friends, that's going too far. But throwing some mustard instead of honey in your friend's tea, okay. Why wouldn't you? That's kind of also shows a little closeness too. Like he feels comfortable doing that. I like all the scenes, and like we said, Blair. I think Blair agrees that all the stuff with Jon Favreau is really fun. I enjoy.
Yeah,
it.
they're terrific. Like, they have great chemistry, and like he's just talking about. Is this where he starts talking about like the alligators in the sewers? Yep,
this starts that thread, and this is the only time where Ben Affleck smiles in this entire movie, I think. Unless he does smile when they start kung fu fighting, Matrix fighting in a playground. They also have
that's straight up Matrix.
We'll get there.
Did they have a fight scene in a Matrix in a park?
Yeah, that's actually Matrix.
Early brawl.
Is that the one? So it's
Reloaded.
Where Reloaded when he fights all this Agent Smiths, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Movie. Okay.
Anyways, so
everything with that, like, okay, I did kind of laugh at the joke when he's like, "Well, can you hand me the honey?" And she's like, "Get it your damn self." And she's like, "Oh, you're blind."
Like, what are you blind? And he's like, blind? Yeah.
Kinda, yeah. And of course she apologizes immediately. Cute. That's all that stuff's fine. It's cute.
That was fine. The part where he follows her and like stalks her to the playground.
That's not cool. That's not cool.
No, I was like,
and he grabs her. It's like, no doesn't mean convince me.
It's a little like, really, like, I just want to know your name. It's like she doesn't want to give it to you. Fuck you, buddy. Go away.
Herself, like, do not grab a woman on the streets of New York.
What are you, crazy? Yeah, exactly. What are you, insane? I know I had the exact same reaction. Like, dude, now you've crossed over. This was all fun and games, and until you tried to stop a woman from walking because you're curious about her name. You
wouldn't tell me your name. Like,
yeah, because you met her for 5 seconds, you hit on her. She didn't even get her coffee. She went to the coffee shop, sat down, and then left. I don't think she ever got her coffee.
She has a coffee cup when she leaves. So I was wondering the same thing. It just it happens way too fast. But yeah, she had her coffee. Because she does have a cup when she leaves. Because I was wondering the same thing. And I was like, did she just like, fuck this guy? He hit on me. I'm out of here. I don't want to be around this.
I don't know. Actually, I wouldn't blame her. I wouldn't blame her.
I wouldn't either.
No. So anyway, so they go to this, unless you have something else on this wonderful scene in the coffee shop, Blair.
No, it's like they kind of go to the park, and it's it's like, are you blind? It's like, he like throws his stick in the air and kind of like, he must have threw it up in like the stratosphere by the time he like comes down and like falls down in his hand.
Yeah, he's like, I'm Superman.
Yeah, this whole fight scene in the I actually it's one of my favorite ones because it's pretty clever the way they're using playground equipment and using the seesaws, and it makes no sense. And again, I'm now at the point in this movie where this is just stupid, and I'm not expecting anything better than what I'm getting. I'm getting exactly what I expect.
Because we know what he can do, but she doesn't. So in the coffee shop, he's like, yeah, I'm blind. But then throughout this entire thing, she would think like, I think he's just doing this to like get handicap points or like disability points rather. Sorry to use that word.
Just
like
hit on
to pick up girls.
I mean, that's what it seems like. I mean, he fights her really good, and she's a skilled fighter, and they're doing all these stupid moves, and like, I mean, it's really weird. I think he takes off his glasses. So he's like, yeah, actually, I'm blind. I'm just, I can hear really well or something. I don't know. It's just weird. Oh yeah, I'm from New York. I had to teach myself how to fight or something like that.
Yeah, and she kind of gives a little backstory. And she said her name is Elektra. Then I realized, oh, that's right. Okay, that's a character. Then I'm like, oh, there's another movie. Okay, here we go. So she's evidently in the next movie, or is the next,
which I've never seen, and I kind of want to now.
You don't.
I know you say that.
It is so boring. There's a bad movie that's entertaining. Like, I would call this one bad but entertaining. Elektra is just boring. But they do bring in, it's funny because like in the Netflix show, they say like he was kind of trained by a guy named Stick, and they introduced that character in Elektra, who's supposed to have a history with Daredevil.
Yeah, I saw it when I was reading the description of the Elektra movie. I was like, that really confused me. But it got me I'm curious now. Like, I'm going to have to watch it just because I'm only missing 5 Marvel movies I've never seen from the original stuff. So that's now.
Well, I assume I'll be taking that journey with you there, Mike. So
if you want to, yes.
Oh, I got the Blu-ray out there. I'm pretty sure I bought it at Walmart for like $5. So I have a copy of it.
Part of like the Marvel 3-pack, where you get them for like $10.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun. So yeah, after the assault, after the attempted assault and subsequent kung fu fight, they give each other the eyes, and she tells her name, Electra.
Electra
Nachos.
Nachos.
Electra Nachos.
Sounds like a Mexican appetizer.
Sounds like a Mexican appetizer.
That was funny.
Yeah, see, it's fun.
There were some fun moments.
This is when we meet Kingpin for the first time.
Yes, we get the Fist Corporation. I like the stuff with Kingpin. I like the way you first meet him, and I also like the actor that plays Elektra's father a lot. I forget his name, but I really like him. He's another character actor I always enjoy.
Yeah, I don't remember him. He is in I can
He's in Stargate.
Stargate, really?
Yeah, he's in Stargate the movie, and then he's in Stargate. He's the only character from Stargate the film that actually shows up in Stargate SG-1 because everyone else is replaced. He's the only actor that comes in both. Not character, but actor.
So what's this character's name? Because now I have to look up the one movie he has a cameo in because it's driving me absolutely up the wall.
Elektra's father? Something Nachos?
No, is that Electra's... Wait, no. I think I'm talking about his handler, the Kingpin's buddy.
Wesley.
Wesley?
Yeah, I recognize that actor too, but I couldn't place where I knew him from.
I think he's in one of Liam Neeson's friends in the Taken films. He perhaps, I think, I stand to be corrected, was also in Alien Resurrection. He was one of the people that they brought onto the ship just as like a facehugger mule.
I don't think I'm thinking of the right person then. It's the person that's always hanging out with it's the only person that...
The white guy with glasses? That's shorter than him?
Yeah,
that's Wesley.
Okay.
That's his assistant, Wesley.
Leonard Moore?
I don't know, but I do know the character. It's for sure Wesley. I can tell you that much.
Yep, he was in Alien Resurrection. He wasn't Taken. I am thinking of the right person.
I'm clearly not then.
Leland Orser.
Leland Orser? I'm sorry. You can obviously cut all this out. You won't. I know you won't. It's fine.
Well, yeah, that's the guy you have to be thinking of because there aren't that many people that are with him. The only other person that's with Fisk at this point is the father, which I can't find.
People. Have either of you watched Clone High?
No.
Okay, so I'm not going to make every time someone says Wesley, I think of a character named Mr. Butlertron from Clone High. In the theatrical cut, does Kingpin kill one of his bodyguards in front of him?
No.
Okay, that's in the director's cut. It kind of shows his brutality. He just grabs the guy and just murders him right there in the room.
No, yeah, you never really see him actually hurt anybody.
No, the only thing you do see a guard get killed, but that's by Bullseye because he's an asshole.
Oh yeah, no. In the Kingpin introduction here, which still uses Lap Dance by Nerd, which is absolutely terrific. I can't remember the context of why, but he just grabs a guy and just murders him with his bare hands. And it's a good introduction to the Kingpin and kind of shows that, he can be brutal while also being very
charming,
calm, and playing this role as just a regular citizen who's, a socialite.
Yeah, because he's a terrible person. The power that Kingpin has too. I mean, you don't see it in this really because there's not much of it. But that would have added to it. That would have added more this guy's a problem, not just this guy's rich.
Yeah, he just seemed like an evil dude. But again, it's you kind of get it from context, and everyone watching this movie generally is probably gonna know who Kingpin is. I mean, he's a famous. He's one of those characters you've probably heard of in comics, even if you've never read a comic. Leland Orser, by the way,
at this point.
Yeah, the role I remember him from was Seven. He is one of the victims in Seven who is told by the now disgraced. I don't remember things. I gotta look things up before I come on this show.
Well, Michael Duncan, the guy that plays Kingpin, he passed away.
Yes, that always gets me too when I see him. It's oh man, I like him in nearly everything. Great actor. But Leland Orser, he's in a very intense, creepy scene in Seven. If you've never seen,
I don't remember it.
That's where
it's been a while.
So I wanted to double check. So because I never really paid attention, I think in Canada the ratings for films are different, but the director's cut actually is R-rated.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense based on just some of even the way that it treats the violence in there. You can definitely tell there was supposed to be more in there. Some of the when Bullseye shoots Frank Miller in the head, which I thought was very funny because that's Frank Miller, the guy he shoots in the head for 2 seconds. You just even some of the gore that's on people's clothing and whatnot, the way that's arranged, I could definitely tell. This movie was meant to be more violent, and a lot of this stuff was cut. Just because if it was a PG-13 movie from the start, they wouldn't have gone that route. You know what I mean? So yeah, that makes sense. You know me, I'm always here for more splatter. So
and this is all the heart. The guy's name is Eric Avery, is the actor that's from Stargate that I looked up him so I can get it right. But It's when the Elektra's father, which causes all the issues, essentially says, okay, I don't want to be a part of what you're doing anymore. It's getting too dangerous. And it's because he says, we're out. Like, you can buy me out. I laughed at that part. I'm like, really? You think you can just tell the Kingpin here, pay me, I'm gone? Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, you can see that not going well for him.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It's a big inciting incident for the balance of the movie.
But like, I don't understand why. Like, this is why he hires Bullseye just to kill this guy. When I feel like anyone could just kill this guy. It's not like he's a superhero or anything.
He wants to make a paper trail that basically implicates him as the Kingpin to kind of get the heat off of him.
Right. He's trying to frame him as the Kingpin. Correct.
Okay, and I guess somehow
because that guy looks super menacing. He's just, you can tell he's a terror, that person he's trying to pin it on. But yeah, that's kind of the point. And
this is when you have the bar scene that we were talking about earlier with Bullseye, where he has because a week ago before I watched this movie, Blair had made a joke that one of his coworkers was like doing something with a paperclip, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, one of my coworkers just like unfolded a paperclip and was like swinging it around, and I was like so nervous. One, I thought she was going to put it in her eye, and two, like I was just after watching Daredevil, where he just like unfurls a paperclip and just like kills the guy with it. With
like a bunch of paperclips. He unfoils one and he throws like 5 into the guy's neck.
It reminded me a lot of. Has anyone ever seen Kiss of the Dragon? It's the Jet Li movie with Bridget Fonda, I think, is in it. And
I know of it. I don't think I've seen it.
It's a worthwhile watch if you like Jet Li doing like kung fu stuff. It's a pretty decent kung fu movie. I have a whole story behind it, but suffice to say, it was one of the first DVDs I ever bought because I had a buddy of mine who was really into kung fu and really into like gross horror stuff. It was one of the first DVD I bought that, and I bought Monty Python Quest for the Holy Grail with my first DVD player. And he actually bought me the DVD player because he said, and I quote, he's like, "I'll buy you a DVD player if you watch Faces of Death with me." And it was very strange. So I said yes, because DVD players back in those days, very late 90s, like the early 2000s were not cheap. And it was like $169. I remember the price tag of this because I had to watch Faces of Death on it with him because he desperately wanted to share this very stupid, very dumb documentary thing. If you never heard of Faces of Death.
I never did. I looked it up. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, me neither.
There's like 80 of them. Basically, it's these quote unquote real life depictions of people dying. So it's
I know that. Okay, that's not what I Googled, but I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah, and half of them are fake anyway because it's illegal to show those things. You can't do that. Anyway, suffice to say, he desperately wanted me to watch Faces of Death with him. Cousin Dwayne. I used to call him Cousin Dwayne. Cousin Dwayne, I miss you, buddy. Wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. He's So this scene where he puts the paper clips reminds me a lot of towards the end of that movie. He Jet Li uses acupuncture needles as part of his kung fu, which is actually pretty cool. And he does a similar-ish thing with somebody that causes a character to die in a very humorous way that I've made jokes about for a decade now. But anyway, it reminded me of that. So if you see Kiss the Dragon, you now understand what I'm talking about.
I know of the movie. You got my interest. I do like Jet Li movies, but I just...
It's neat. It's fun. It's fun.
Okay. And then after this scene, you have Bullseye get on a plane and murder the old woman that we joked about earlier. Like,
that's so stupid. Now, mind you, I love Colin Farrell in this. I really enjoy him because he's just having a blast. He is hamming it up. And now again, I'm like a drowning person. I'm just looking for fun anywhere I can suck it in. Because again, this is Friday night. I want to have a nice time. It's Friday night. The kids were in bed relatively early. Go watch some Daredevil. Have some fun. No joy to be had. So I'm just grasping for it. And Colin Farrell gave me what I was looking for. Good man.
And again, I don't know how we got, get me Bullseye. Like, if you need him quickly, why put him on a commercial flight? Like, you're probably a man of means who can probably smuggle him on like a private jet. Although, I mean, it is very like mean what he does, but I do love kind of what he does, and like the line after where she's like, "Oh, like, do you anything on?" Is it just more peanuts? Like, I do love that delivery. Like, I that part is stuck with me all those years later. He
does really play a cartoon character though.
Yeah, and again, I could have done with more backstory about Daredevil and Kingpin and how that happened, and again, less casual racism from the kindly old lady sitting next to him about talking. Again, I don't even want to repeat the words she says, which I'm like, oh man, like, you can't say that. even in 2003, I don't know if that was like.
Yeah, 2003 was much less.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's much more racist than I think we realize.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm sure, but
I mean, not to get away from things too much, but I bought the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection this weekend, and at the start of that, there's a warning that like these games were made in like a different time, and like I can't remember the context. It's probably like I could think of some characters that might be problematic. I haven't played these games in a while, but like the fact that these games came out in like 2000, 2001, and they're putting that warning in now, like I can definitely see them, unfortunately, getting away with that in Daredevil, and especially thinking of another movie around this time called Old School, Todd Phillips comedy, where there's some lines at the start of that. And as I rewatched that like during the pandemic, and I was like, oh, I don't care for this.
Oh yeah, early 2000s, we were very racist. I think way more than we think about in 2020.
Yeah, homophobia for sure.
Yeah,
it was just off-putting. Yeah, that's interesting. They put that warning though in the Legends pack. That's good. I think that's good.
I'm glad. No, I mean that should be, because people should know that like this was not okay then, but we didn't care, and now just be aware like this was a different time.
We recognize it's not okay, but we're gonna keep it here because it's just part of the game or the work of its time. But we recognize it. Learn from it and move on. I think that's great. But yeah, her casual racism really off-put me. Which was a bummer because I'm watching now my second favorite character in the movie, Bullseye, who's just so insane and delightfully so. But he kills her with a peanut, which is great. And I'm like, good for you. That's what you get, you old biddy.
And I put in my notes, Daredevil stops a beatdown and gets upset at himself, but I can't remember what it was about. I think this is when he's telling himself, "I'm a good guy."
He's beating on an enforcer, and the enforcer's like, "Oh, this is the kitchen belongs to the kingpin," and then
that's what.
This guy's son is in the corner and he's crying. He's like, "Don't hurt my dad, don't hurt me." And he's like, I'm not the bad guy. And it's kind of like a crisis of like, am I actually like making a difference? I think there is some narration possibly where he's like, I don't know sometimes, like I don't know if I'm making a difference or not.
Yeah,
I can't remember this.
So I believe you're right. Well, I guess if crushing a man's skull under a speeding subway didn't clue you off that you're a bad person, a crying child in the corner will definitely make that happen.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Oh, dang it. Yes, I am no good at all. But yeah, I mean, that's fine.
I didn't really like him being a killer. I mean, just because it doesn't really work well, in my opinion, in this, but it was fine. Like, it was just stupid to me. And this is when you have the scene with him at the law office where you see how they get paid. And they have like, I talk about the cheese wheel and everything like that. And then
I love that. It's like, I do salsa dancing on the weekend and shake my ass to pay my power bill. And like
that was funny. There were some funny lines, and that was one of them for sure.
And the visual gag of Jon Favreau continually trying to make the basket, and of course, Daredevil does the same, like just swishes the belt wall. It's again very cute. I would like a little more of that actually, just that kind of camaraderie. And I would really like to see Jon Favreau have more stakes in the movie other than being the comic relief, which again, I'm happy he was there because again, grasping for fun air, but I wish he'd had just more to do, but again, as comic foil, as his buddy, I think he's great. So
yeah, he should have had more
fun scene. Again, having fun. Thank you, movie. But then we get
you were craving that at that point, huh?
Oh, I was just again grasping for anything. But then we get to the point where we are.
This is when Elektra shows up and like stalks him on the street. That's how I put it.
Yeah.
Oh, is that after this? Because I thought
it's right. Unless I put it in my notes.
Because I thought he's
wrong.
like, oh yeah, we got invited to this ball, and the only reason why we're there is because of Elektra. And he talks about it's like, oh, you're going straight from not being in the relationship to the breakup. Or something like that.
Yeah, because he said he's not in. Yeah, he doesn't want to go. And then he meets her. And then when he meets her, then he brings her up to the roof, and you have the whole scene with the rain.
Oh, I thought that was first for some reason.
I think that.
So the rain scene is before. I think the rain scene is before the actual ball. I think
it definitely before the ball. This is before the ball happened.
Yes, because because again, I remember that getting the invite and thinking immediately, why would someone invite these schlubs to like a fancy New York City ball with an embossed? Of course, it's embossed, so we can feel the letters. We get it. All right, fine film. We know, we get it. But
whenever I see stuff like that,
yeah.
I think of American Psycho, which I've never seen, but I just know that joke with the business cards.
Paul Allen.
Yeah.
That's what I thought
Yep.
of. I was like, ooh, yours is. With it, with the meme where they change it, put like a Pokemon card or something else there.
A movie I don't like as much as most people, to be honest with you.
Never seen it, and I don't know if I want to ever see it.
So on the rooftop, when after the rain, because he has a thing where it's like, okay, when the rain falls, I can kind of see the shapes, and you kind of see the CG Jennifer Garner, because he hears crime,
Right?
And so in the
He hears
theatrical,
Kingpin being mentioned.
oh, okay, so in the theatrical cut, because I know she's like, stay with me. Does he actually stay or does he go? I thought
he stays.
He left.
He stays. No,
Oh,
this
he
is
does?
wait. Hang on.
I could have swore he starts to stay. He sees her in the rain, and he's like, I saw you. I gotta go.
No, he goes. I'm pretty confident. He says he looks like he has this grimacing. I gotta take a dump face. Like, oh no. And it's in the rain, and she says, I want to stay. And I think that's when she stays. He's like, screw that person getting murdered in the hallway. I'm going to get me some Jennifer Garner. And I think that's when he stays, which again was kind of against type. Pretty confident.
Yeah, he does stay with her. I put in my note, stays with her, and then I put sex.
Yes, stays with her
okay,
and then sex. Yeah.
That's not in the director's cut. That's something that the studio wanted. They wanted more romance, apparently, according to what I was reading. So yeah, he hears crime and he's like, and then he bounces. But then what happens at the ball where she's like, I got dressed up for you, which I'm pretty sure the person they had on set, kind of the blind coach for Ben Affleck, that was the line he used with his wife, where she's like, I got dressed up for you. Because if he bounces, like in the director's cut, why would she want him to go to the ball when it's like, screw that guy, he keeps leaving?
What are you talking about? Women love when you're an asshole, right?
But in the theatrical cut, when they actually do have a moment, that makes sense. Like, she should be downright angry at him and like,
Yes.
oh man, like, why do you keep running away? So that's kind of interesting how it's worse than the theatrical cut in some ways, but also better.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because it kind of goes against type, and my only thought again was, oh, well, now he's just going to leave this person to be battered in the hallway so he can get some strange. But I mean, it's fine. Having people, and sex in movies for the most part, I just find usually pretty off-putting.
This was also unnecessary. I don't know. I only like nudity in movies. I mean, this didn't have nudity, but I only like it when it really serves a purpose. Like someone trying to lead men into goo to kill them for food. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, this just, like, I get it, but at the same time, it's like you could have just had them like kiss on the rooftop and left it at that, and that would have been fine.
Listen, Mike, we got the 18 to 24 demographic. We got to get the dames in the theater to buy
That's
movie
right.
tickets.
I mean,
right.
I know, but it's
That's right.
It's just like-
Jennifer Garner sells tickets. That's right. We got to make sure.
It's like the
Popcorn,
guys have the
candy,
action.
soda.
We gotta have the romance. The romance gets the girls in. They stay with their boyfriend. Then they tell their friends, like, oh, it's a love story on top of this.
Oh, you would have made some movies back in those eras. You nailed it. God, so funny.
no, it just
Yeah, I don't know. But that whole scene stinks, though. I'm sorry. Sonar Jennifer Garner looks stupid. They turn on the movie rain because that's what happens when rain starts. It just starts sheeting rain. And it's clearly they turn on the movie rain fountain because, as I've said on this show before, it's very hard to film rain. If you want to see rain, it needs to be deluging because rain is small and small droplets do not pick up light.
You film in Vancouver.
Film in Vancouver. This was supposed to be filmed in Vancouver, actually. But Ben Affleck did not want to go back to Vancouver because his previous film was shot in Vancouver because everything's cheaper, evidently, in Vancouver. And that's why they shot it in Los Angeles, because Ben Affleck did not want to go back to Canada.
So we pull a David Duchovny.
What does that mean?
Well, it was in the X-Files where they were filming in Vancouver, and then David Duchovny said, I don't want to film in Vancouver. I want to go to L.A. But there's
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. There's a joke in the there's a cartoon called Reboot, and they have Fax Modem and something Scully, I can't remember, and he has a pamphlet for like Vancouver and LA in his hand.
That's
trivia for the night.
That's a good bit.
Well, hey, I had a New York reference. You have a Canada reference. But yeah, that's the reason why they didn't want to be there. But yeah, I don't know. This whole thing's just stupid and stinks. And it does. And now that I know that it was a studio decision, it definitely makes sense because it feels tacked on and kind of useless.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it, But now that you guys bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's when you say the director's cut, he leaves, which then wouldn't go along with the part where she's like, I wore this dress for you, you blind man. Not be like, you asshole, you left me on the roof, you fucker.
And just like, I don't know how much time passes throughout this entire movie, but then like at the end, he's fighting the Kingpin. He's like, you killed the only two people I ever loved. And it's like, you barely know this woman.
I was thinking the same thing.
It's like you've had like 3 dates and like Daredevil keeps getting in between. And it's like, you're ready to marry this person?
Strange.
Matt Murdock is a serial player in comics. Like, just from that one episode of She-Hulk where he does a brilliant walk of shame in his Daredevil. Oh my God, it's so.
If I remember correctly, in the comics, he knows Elektra from previously and then runs into her again in the time when she shows up. So it makes more sense that he has already has a history with her versus this where he stalks her. He goes to a because I don't think much time has passed from the way that I took it in this movie, that it was like days had gone by, maybe a week top, but I would say it's been days, like 3 days, 3-4 days. I don't think it's very long.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Which, I get it, but like it's just probably another studio line. Like, it didn't need to be there. Plus this guy, why are you telling this guy, you don't want to tell some, mafia boss, you killed my father, and you'd be like, oh, yeah, okay. Who's your father? I don't know. I killed a lot of people, buddy. It was just one of those stupid things. I don't know. That's what I thought about that.
What's his line? I think we're talking about the Kingpin situation, right? When he's confronting Kingpin at the fancy ball, he's something like, we only
work for innocent people.
Yeah, we only work for innocent people, and that's when. And again, really like Michael Clark Duncan, and he's like, "There's nobody's innocent." And you're like, "Okay, all right, you're menacing. I like you. Please, just smash Ben Affleck's head. I want to see more of you. This sounds great." But we do not get that.
No, it was just dumb. And this is also where he's talking with Urich, where he shows him the blind stick, and then the guy recognizes a little symbol on it, which then plays a part a little bit later. Which one of my issues is I feel like Daredevil should have a blind stick, sure, but it doesn't supposed to be his weapon too. Like, his weapon is something different.
Yeah, it because when I think about traditional, how you think of superheroes, even though it would be super warm and uncomfortable to do this all the time, you think that they're wearing their suit under their clothes. So the stick being able to transform into the Billy Club would be, a time saver. It's like, okay, I need to take off my clothes, become Daredevil, and here is my weapon. But he's not doing that. He has to go all the way back to his apartment to put on this big, bulky leather gear. So it was just,
it's only there.
They had to do
scene.
Just to make it simple for the audience to kind of link the two things together.
And there's a really stupid scene that I don't right around this time where you have Elektra in the dress and you have Foggy rubbing the boobs on a Griffin statue. Why people are coming walking around.
I don't know.
I didn't understand. Why is this here? Just give me these seconds back and put something. Just why? Just cut this.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of humor. He's just sitting there. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just has his hand there because he doesn't know. He says at the firm, he's like, "I'm a +1. I can't go to this on my own. You're the guy. I'm the +1." So when Matt goes away, he's just trying to do something, and then he just has his hand there, and he just doesn't realize what he's doing. It's just a cute little.
I don't know. I thought it was stupid.
Well, it's kind of senseless, but again, it's a little visual humor, I suppose. It didn't really bug me. Again, he is my humor lifeline. He's my fun line. I'm just gripping onto Jon Favreau. I'm just trying to have fun again. So that was mine. I didn't bother. But yeah, I like how Jon Favreau. He's just trying to get contacts and get work where they don't pay us in sports equipment. They give us actual money to do work for them.
Which again makes sense. You run a business, you need money. So, and that fanciest apartment, somehow they got to pay for it.
Is Karen Page in the theatrical version that much or at all?
She's not in this. Oh, is that the
actress in Grey's Anatomy?
Okay, she's in one scene. They don't ever say Karen Page, I don't think, because I was waiting for it. But she's the secretary at the law office, right?
Yeah.
She's in one scene, but they don't say her name, and then that's it.
Yeah, okay. So is she a bigger part of the director?
I think there's one more scene. It's not very much more screen time, but they do, I think, call her Karen or something.
Because I was wondering why Karen Page wasn't in this, because she's such a big character for Daredevil. But that makes sense.
The movie is already stuff. Like it's already exploding at the seams with all this stuff they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have rather had her than some of the other stuff we have. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of comparing it too much to the show too, because that's what now when my Daredevil is the show.
There you go.
So, and then this is when Elektra leaves with her father. All of a sudden, like really, I think it's really fast too. Like she just like I gotta go and just kind of abandoned him.
Yeah,
Well, Kingpin puts the rose in his jacket and he's like saying goodbye. So he knows that like, oh, I'm going to die very shortly. So then he's like, we have to get out of here right now. And then Bullseye shows up to the awesome Rob Zombie song.
That is a pretty good Rob Zombie song. I will admit that.
This was a cool part. Everything with him where like he goes after the limo and he like rides on top of the motorcycle and throws the ninja stars and kills the drivers. That was a cool part.
Yep, liking all that.
The
Like all
ninja
that.
stars that he got past TSA or like security.
Yeah. Sir, can you please take off your belt? Those were not the days of the TSA pre-approved where you can just waltz on through the metal detector. No.
Oh.
You're taking.
You couldn't get nail clippers past like airport security. And this guy has like 6 or 7 ninja stars.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. Commercial airline flight. I guess they weren't as careful in Ireland when they got on the flight. Maybe I don't know.
Hell, when I went on a plane this year, I had water that I forgot to dump out of my tumbler, and one airport dumped it out for me. But when I was in Texas, they're like, no, you got to go back through. No, yeah, I was in Texas. You have to go back through everything. They wouldn't dump it for me. They made me go through all TSA again. Like, just dump it for me, please. Like, I'm sorry, I forgot. And then like, you got to go through the line again. I'm like, wow.
Oh, that's lame. That's Texas. Come on now.
She's like, yeah, you got to go through here, pour it in this garbage, and then come all the way back through here with your cup.
Boo
I'm
to
like,
that.
good thing I got hours to wait because I planned. Well, that's El Paso. El Paso Airport wasn't great because I couldn't even charge my phone. There was no charging plugs in El Paso Airport. I was upset.
Dang it, El Paso! Get your act together, Mike Albertin,
but
fancy gentleman, needs to charge his phone.
I had great Mexican food at a place right by the airport somewhere that I stopped at, so that was nice. But yeah, I was really upset. I was like, how can you not have any chargers? I got to charge my Steam Deck. I got to charge my laptop. I got to well, come on, guys.
You're the man without fear if you're having Mexican food before you go on a flight.
That was after we got off the flight. Actually.
Okay.
I had Mexican food. I didn't have any on the way.
I had mentioned it. The joke was good enough. You did not.
I had McDonald's in Denver.
Oh, you are the man without fear.
You really are. You are.
With the Denver airport, I had McDonald's on our return flight home because I needed food. My wife had Mexican, which I had some too.
Well, anyway.
Yes. That's where we ended.
Note to self: don't sit next to Mike on a plane.
Yeah, really.
I was fine actually. I was just playing games.
As
on
one
my
does
Steam
on a
Deck.
flight.
What else was I gonna do I was playing Sailor Moon, fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight. But okay,
right.
when the whole thing with him attacking the limo, that was all good, and then he kills the father with Daredevil's weapon to essentially frames Daredevil.
How hard did he throw that stick?
I know, right?
Very hard.
That is a blunt object that's a blunt object, and boy, oh boy, did he hurtle that thing through the man's chest.
Like, I don't understand. His power in the comics is supposed to be he's a great shot. Not that he's Gambit. That's not his power. He's not Gambit.
I think because I remember reading, because I'm not sure if he's just like Hawkeye, where he's just very good at what he does, or if he actually, because I think I might have had a Marvel card when I was a kid where it said like he may or may not have like a mutant ability and possibly an adamantium skull too. So I don't know. Like until the Netflix series, I didn't know that one, Daredevil or Bullseye rather wasn't Irish, and two, that his real name or real last name is something Poindexter. When I was like, what? Excuse me?
Okay,
Yeah,
I have
pardon?
the description for him from Wiki. A psychopathic assassin, Bullseye uses the opportunities afforded. Okay. Although he possesses no superpowers, Bullseye is able to use almost any object as a lethal projectile, be weapons like shuriken and sai, or seemingly harmless objects like playing cards and pencils. His marksmanship is uncanny at a nearly supernatural level.
So he's Hawkeye. And
Yes.
I mean, he was Dark Hawkeye in the Dark Avengers.
Yes.
He's Hawkeye and the gravity gun, where he can just throw anything at anybody at any time. So yeah, it works.
I don't know. It was just a little too much for some of the stuff he throws.
No love for
Especially-
no love for a Half-Life 2 reference. Nothing. Absolutely.
I never
nothing.
played it.
Yeah, me neither. I
Jeez.
I
I know.
started it and then I always peter out and get bored.
What? Okay.
I've
I-
actually never played Half-Life 1 or 2. That's why
Gotta
1 is on the
I
show.
know. I know.
coming up because I need to play Half-Life. Like, I need to play those games.
Really good. Well, Half-Life, I don't know. Half-Life's a tough play these days. You know,
Oh, I know it ain't gonna be fun.
There's some
but,
really frustrating things in Half-Life.
oh, I know it's gonna be bad, but it's like I gotta do it because I also gotta play Then I'm gonna play Half-Life 2.
Half-Life 2 is great. Half-Life's good too. But anyway.
But yes, that's why there was no comment. Like, I've never played it, so I don't have any. I know the gun, but I have no reference. Like, there's no reference to it for me. And then you have Daredevil goes back to his apartment. He starts breaking stuff in his room because Elektra thinks he murdered her father. She shoots at him and empties the clip, and he runs away. But
yeah, he has a temper tantrum. He's upset. It happens.
this part I found weird. Like, you have the funeral, and this is I love this part because I had the Evanescence song playing in the background. I'm like, yeah. So because
Is this Bring Me Back to Life? This one here?
I think this is Bring Back to Life.
Okay.
Yeah, it's My Immortal at the funeral. And in the director's cut, Ben Urich is there and he pulls him aside to tell him about, I think it was during the investigation, a cop took the stand and he uses radar sense and he's like, oh yeah, no, he's telling the truth. He's like, no, he's crooked because, he's an NYPD cop, but he has this awesome BMW. And then he leads him to go there and find out he has a pacemaker. But I'm pretty sure this would just go straight from, I guess, the funeral to the Kevin Smith cameo.
Yeah, that's, I think, right after this, because first at the funeral, you have where she gets upset and doesn't want to talk to him, and then he sees her in the rain, and she puts the umbrella up so he can't see her anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, the cold.
Yeah. Oof.
But no, My Immortal, it was My Immortal, which I just fucking love this song. So just hearing this, I'm like, okay, I'm on board. Because I also love when movies play music that fits like what's happening in the movie. And
I didn't think so, though. Song. I didn't like that, and then it threw me out. I didn't like the use of that song in the funeral scene. I thought it did not fit at all. How interesting. I just felt like I was like, this is kind of hammered in. I want something somber, and I also in those kind of moments, someone singing really pulls me out of it for some reason. Just a little bit of score. You don't need to. I know. I understand. I guess different tastes. I didn't find it very. For some reason, it just really stuck out to me. And like,
some of the lines in the song, like "These tears are just too real," stuff like that, is a fit for me.
I don't know. For me, it felt a little obvious, and I just didn't. I don't know. It just, and that's a personal preference thing, I guess. I just don't like when in these summer moments you have like a sad song where someone's singing. It just, I don't know, throws me off a little bit. But
you'd rather just have instrumentals while they're being led to their death and weird stuff like that is happening, and nothing makes sense. So your second watch there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna keep making jokes about that movie. So.
Oh yes, just give random sounds of people breathing and such. Yes, that'd be perfect. That'd be great.
And yeah, you're right. After this part, when they're at the morgue with Kevin Smith, I really got a kick out of seeing Kevin Smith in here because I was like, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, me too. I did. That was fun.
Yeah, it was because he kind of brought Daredevil back from the dead, because Daredevil the book was going to get canceled, and then like he went to Marvel and was like, can I do this? And they're like, do whatever you want. We don't care. Daredevil means nothing to us. And then he did this Guardian Devil story that sold really well and kind of made Daredevil big enough that this movie got made.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm assuming
cool.
A bunch of people had rights and they were just trying to make comic books out of everything or movies out of everything because Blade made money, X-Men, and what do we got? Oh, we got this Daredevil thing. Cool, let's do this.
Yeah. Well, didn't this property die on the vine for Fox? Like they tried to. Was this or something else kind of died on the vine because they lost the property to it, and that's why Marvel.
Yeah, they this did well, but didn't do well enough to kind of get a sequel off the grounds. And then Elektra came out, and that was a disaster. And then I can't remember. I think it was Joe Carnahan was going to do like a reboot where it was going to be like a gritty Serpico like story set in the 70s. And they were about to start production, but they needed to start it like right away, or else they would lose the rights. And I think the story came out that at once upon a time, Fox was going to do like a Civil War crossover with just their characters, where it was going to be the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and Daredevil was perhaps going to be a lawyer who was in between.
That would have been bad.
But that never materialized.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, that sounds awful. But
yeah,
cool.
It was during the time where like if you didn't make something in a certain amount of time, you'd lose the rights pretty quickly.
Yeah,
you had to always always make something. I think you have 8 years or so. I think.
Yeah, why every couple of years Warren Beatty just makes a Dick Tracy special where he's just in a Dick Tracy outfit.
I know what you're talking about. Unfortunately, thanks to Comic Conspiracy Podcast, I know what you're talking about. I kind of want to watch that movie for this show.
Yeah, so I think just kind of pulling it back over, I think.
Please.
So, no, you're fine. So funeral, we got the morgue. We have Bullseye, Kingpin's office. Again, lots of fun between two very good actors who are doing their thing. Did anyone see Banshees of, not Inishmore or whatever it was? Inishmore is a...
Banshees of Inisherin.
That's it, yeah. Inishmore is
I haven't, no.
It's great.
Me either.
You should definitely see it. It's awesome. Fantastic. Very slow, but it's very, very good. It goes strange places, and I absolutely love it. So, yeah, it's really good. It's the same director of In Bruges and other things, and 3 Billboards Outside of whatever was Missouri.
Did he do 7, or did they do 7 Psychopaths?
Yep, 7 Psychopaths, which is not great, but
I enjoy 7 Psychopaths.
Yeah, I remember not caring for it, but it's been a very long time. I saw it in theaters.
In the because the altercation between Daredevil or Bullseye rather and Kingpin, it's where you get the first F-bomb in the director's cut, first and only one, I think.
When was it? I think it might be also in the. I thought I heard it quickly.
Yeah, because he's like, "Is there anything else?" And he's like, "Yeah, I want a bloody costume." But in the director's cut, he says, "I want a fucking costume."
Oh, okay. So, all right. Fine.
Okay.
Fine. It's fine. Yeah. So it's again good scene. I like watching Bullseye and do his thing. It's just a lot of fun. So now we get to the point where let's see.
This is when Ulrich comes up to him and goes to see Matt when he kind of put 2 and 2 together that Matt Murdock is Daredevil because of seeing the stick that was left at the murder.
Yep. I kind of like
tells them
that
they're going to try to kill Elektra. I can't remember. He says something like that. Like I think he realizes that they're going to murder that. Oh, Kingpin murders the whole family. Something comes up. I don't remember. But something.
They just don't murder you. They murder your entire bloodline.
Okay. Yes, and that's when the bell goes off for Mr. Matt here, and he's ooh, I better get to getting. So he goes after save Elektra. And
you have a small scene with Elektra training with the size, and like she's just hitting bags, and one bag has a Daredevil face.
That was pretty good. Actually, got a kick out of that. I understand. Fine training montage, more rock music, more new metal, more. Okay, come on. We have 50 minutes in. We got like 30 minutes left. Come on. Go. At that point, I was so exhausted and over it. My wife and I were just looking at each other every 5 minutes, like.
Such a minor thing for these fight scenes, and I think it's only now recently in movies. I know it was in Birds of Prey, it was a big thing, and I did not care for that movie whatsoever. You're fighting someone with size, and you're just leaving this massive mane of hair just. You pull that back. That is going to get in the way.
Get yourself a hair tie. You really ought to. That's it's a very good point. But so this is I guess when she faces off against Bullseye and does a terrible job.
I guess she's just outside her apartment because when I was watching this, I was like, how does everyone know where they need to be at that point?
Oh, it says it in the script. They're right there. You just go over. And
she's just kind of running around. She has to put on like this outfit, which I don't think would like tight leather pants would allow her to maneuver that well.
My wife did the exact same thing. She's like, I don't think that's the best pant choice for this encounter.
But I mean, I guess it's of that era where it's like, well, we need that male gaze. Put her in the leather.
Put her in it. That's it.
Still put on the poster, so she's like facing ass ways out on the movie poster and the DVD case.
This is where she fights Daredevil, stabs him in the shoulder and like the whole idea that as soon as she sees his face, she realizes that he must have not done it. It can't be Matt. I mean, I was thinking it would be more like, you fucker, you slept with me and you killed my father. It's not you.
Yeah, I was so waiting for the turn of her recognizing that he realizing, Daredevil, you're the one who killed my father, and putting the pieces together because you threw your walking stick through his chest. And her turn of, oh, sweetie, I can't believe I stabbed you in the shoulder with my sai was so strange.
It wasn't just
very
good.
Odd choice. No, because again, I guess the movie realizes it's only got about half an hour left, maybe half an hour left, probably about 20 minutes. We got to wrap this thing up.
We got to catch up to the start.
Yeah, catch up to the start. That's exactly what happens. We catch up to the start, and not great. Very strange choice.
Her fighting Colin Farrell is also weird. Like I thought he was gonna, because when they're fighting, he thinks he's Gambit, throws a playing card at her. cuts her neck, and I thought, okay, now she's like, that's what's gonna kill her. But it's when he stabs her with a sai, and I was just like, what's the point of cutting her neck then?
He has to kill her that way because that's the iconic electric death.
I actually
Oh, really?
have
Is
that
that,
comic.
is that a thing?
Yeah, he kills her with a sai.
Yeah, like just in the air with him through her. Yeah, it's from a 80s comic.
Okay. Well, that makes a little more sense then, because at the time I'm like, it seemed very staged and very comic. The side point is like protruding, like tenting her jacket from her back, as opposed to pushing through, because that would have cost too much money. So they just used a fake prop side and made a little whoop in her back to simulate a side point holding her aloft. I got a little kick out of that little moment. But and then at that point I'm thinking, and again, if you're in a theater, you don't think this, but I know this. Like, there's an Elektra movie. Like, she's dead? When is she gonna wake up? Oh no, she's dead. So how is the movie a prequel?
No, she comes back to life.
Well, at the end, because he goes to the roof because she has a necklace, and he's like, "Oh, this is Braille," and then he's on that roof, and then the necklace is hanging from like something, which kind of indicates that like she got out of there somehow. I think there's some mysticism involved. I know. Yes. In the comics, there's like a group called The Hand, and I do not remember Elektra at all. I know Terrence Stamp is in it.
I'll read this part. It says, after being killed in Daredevil, Elektra is revived by blind martial artist Master Stick. He teaches her the ancient art of Killmonger. So, yes. Somehow he revives her.
I had to read that last night as well.
Somehow Palpatine survives.
Yes, that becomes a mystical thing where she's brought him back to life. Yeah, I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but no,
he sees her heart stop, or you kind of see it.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, so she's dead. She's dead, dead, and that was all I could think was that moment. So cool.
Also, like, the only injury he really takes in this is he gets stabbed in the shoulder. And, like, that shoulder injury is just, like, the end of the world for him. Like, he isn't even beat up that bad. Like, he doesn't get, like, his ass beat. He doesn't get, like, cut up. He just gets stabbed one through the shoulder. And they're like, because then the movie finally catches up to him at the church from the beginning, because now we know how he got here. And it's just like, and the priest's like, oh, you're in no condition to fight. Like, he's been stabbed once. And you have multiple characters that make comments about, like, Kingpin's like, oh, I want to fight you in your prime. Like, he took one injury. He shouldn't be this broken.
I mean, he gets pretty beat up in the Bullseye fight.
Okay, after that, I'll go with that. But, like, before the Bullseye fight, they're like, oh, there's no way you can beat him. It's like, he just took one. I mean, I get it. I wouldn't be okay, but this is a guy that is flying off buildings. Like,
yeah, I know. It seemed a little odd. And I think it also might be, like, superhero gaze that we're so used to the fact that, people are getting pummeled in Marvel movies nowadays. Hey, I can do this all day. And if you got stabbed through the shoulder with a big old sai, it would hamper your fighting abilities. Like you would
lose a lot of blood.
You would lose a lot of blood. So actually, I didn't mind that too much.
Okay.
It just, again, it just made for an uninteresting fight in the amongst the pipe organ of all the crazy things, because those make loud noises. Clang, 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 clang.
That was a weird fight with everything with that, where like Bullseye just shows up at the church to kill him. He's like, I'm gonna kill you for free. Like,
yeah. Again, but the delivery matches works everything. Like I say to my son when he tells a bad joke, work on the delivery. You can tell a bad joke. If you deliver it well, you're always going to be one step ahead of the game. And again, Colin Farrell delivers these lines with such gusto and insanity.
Yeah, he is full up on scenery.
Oh boy. Just wiping his mouth with scenery at this point. So yes, enjoying it to the fullest.
I didn't care for the fight. I thought the fight between them and Bullseye was just
I love it when he like flips through the stained glass window and just like grabs all the glass and just like throws it.
So stupid.
I know, it was stupid, but it's so cool.
It was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty cool. I'll give it that.
Or the part where he gets shot through the hand. He's like, my hand! It's got the sniper rifle. That was also like, I'm like, this is stupid.
It's fine. Again, my expectations are so low at this point. I'll accept anything this movie feeds me because again, I'm just counting the minutes. And
again, I know how you feel. I felt that same way last time.
We're not going to get into Under the Skin again. Y'all listen to our Under the Skin episode if you want to catch up on Mike's disdain for that movie.
Or Sin City. I'm sure there's a lot of disdain in that movie too.
Oof.
I forgot we did that until Mike brought it up before this. I'm like, oh yeah, Sin City.
We saw that movie and y'all hated it so much.
It We did. We hated so much.
See, I think I saw the Sin City sequel, and because I know it was like a sequel that was like way past the point of
Yes.
it should never have been made. Because I remember seeing that first movie back in theater, like probably multiple times. I thought it was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just rewatched it after the sequel, and I was like, I don't know. It looks neat. And I like Clive Owen and all these actors, but like, I don't know if this is aged particularly well.
You should definitely listen to our Sin City episode. You'll see I concur. Sin City was super my jam when I was a young lad when that came out. I have the collector's edition DVD and all those special features. And when I watched it for the show, my opinion has changed. I am not a 22-year-old person anymore. But yeah, that second Sin City movie is absolute hot garbage. It is
I remember you told us.
pure
Do not watch it.
misery. I saw it in theaters. It is god awful. So do not watch the second Sin City movie. And I don't know, see the first one. What else you got to do with your life? So let's go back to this though. The sniper shot goes through his hands. Bullseye dies. Yeah, he throws.
I thought he dies.
No,
Oh, yeah.
he survives.
Yeah, there's
Does
an
not
after
die.
credit scene.
Right. Doesn't he
Yeah.
survives?
I put in my notes dead. I'm like, oh, he's dead. They throw him out a window onto a car. He looks dead, but he actually survives for some reason.
Yeah, because when you see him through the shattered glass of the police car, he kind of is gurgling. He's like,
I think
but
you see an ambulance take him away too, or at least you do in the director's cut.
oh,
You
maybe.
don't in the regular movie.
You don't. Yeah, you're right. You don't see it. I don't think I have to say that. If you fall from that distance and you're not a superhero, you were just going to die. You're actually going to shatter into a million pieces. So don't. Again, dumb thing in the movie. I thought he was dead, but clearly not, as we'll learn in about 10 minutes. And then Daredevil fights the Kingpin for a couple minutes.
This
makes
was
the
a
rain
stupid
happen.
fight.
Terrible. It is.
I mean,
it is,
He does the sprinkler thing so he can see him, and just.
yeah.
But my biggest issue with it was like the whole thing where he takes off his mask for the Kingpin. Is like,
No, the Kingpin takes off his mask because he's beating him, and then he's like,
oh,
"Let me
to see who
the
he is.
face
He's like,
of
oh,
man."
you're the blind
the
lawyer.
blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen.
But like, you can't let. I don't know. To me, it bothered me because I'm like, okay, now he has to kill him because he can't know his identity.
But then I do like the line where he's like, the police are coming, and he's like, oh, they're coming to get you. He's like, no, don't you know the words out of the Kingpin? And he's like, I'll tell everyone in Rikers who you are. And he says, go tell them how you got beat by a blind man. It'll be like putting blood into water.
It's just so petulant. Like, I don't know. It just didn't strike me as cool at all.
And like,
I
he
don't know.
barely beats him. He breaks both his legs and the fight's over. I mean, it makes
Well,
sense.
broke his knees, and he's a big man. And my wife,
Oh
again,
yeah, no, I'd be on the ground crying. So
well, my wife's like, you can't like rest on your knees when your knees are broken. That's not how that works.
you're just gonna be on the ground like ah.
No, you were going to be on the ground face down screaming. Although so that was another thing my wife pointed out, because again, we're just counting the minutes. And then that's it. Kingpin.
It was just a weird fight too. It was just like, it was very anticlimactic, and I almost didn't think they were gonna fight in this movie because the movie's like, I'm like, the movie's almost over. Like, we just got this big thing with Bullseye. Like, we don't have a lot of time left.
And the movie's well aware, because again, we hurdle through the best of this film. So
But it does make sense that what you said, Blair, because I was so confused. Like, oh, the Kingpin's I'm like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? Like, I was so confused. So I'm glad that you mentioned that it's in the director's cut.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is like common knowledge because it was around that time. So around this time, there was a short-lived Spider-Man cartoon on MTV. It was like, it only lasted for 13 episodes. It was CG, and it's pretty good. It might be on Disney Plus now. And there's an episode where they have the Kingpin, and it is voiced by Michael Clark Duncan. So there was kind of like them trying to do connective tissue between Spider-Man and Daredevil without having the rights. So if you wanted like 20 more minutes of Michael Clark Duncan Kingpin, find that cartoon. I think it might be on Disney Plus.
What's it called?
It's like Spider-Man, the new animated series. Neil Patrick Harris is the voice of Spider-Man.
Oh, that's on Disney Plus. Yes. Okay. I won't because I don't want any more, but that's cool. And then you have them after all this. You have them at the cafe again, where he's reading a newspaper, says Fisk is the Kingpin, and you have like a little scene where a girl walks in, but it's not Elektra because she's dead. But they have that whole thing, which I thought was like, okay, this is weird. So, and then you have another small scene where Urich is writing about Daredevil, and he puts like, oh, the Daredevil is Matt Murdock, and you see him deleting everything while he's drinking Heineken beers.
and naturally, as he does. Yeah, that's fine. Again, I like that character. I think I wish I had a little bit more of, but like Blair said, this movie is really stuffed with stuff. Like it's really
there is
bulging
a
at the seams.
scene in the director's cut where he confronts him and says, like, I know who you are, and it's my duty as a reporter to tell people. And he warns him, it's like, if you do this, you are going to like basically destroy me. So there's more weight to him actually like deleting the story. Intentionally, there was more weight to that.
That's cool.
I think it's neat that on the necklace, because necklace is before this part. He finds Elektra's necklace. Again, this made very little sense to me because again, my brain is going, she's dead, but there's another movie that's her name and Jennifer Garner's on the poster. So what is going on here? And he's like looking at the braille, and it's evidently it's got braille on the necklace. And all I said to my wife, I go, Shame, I wonder if the braille spells out the letters F-U. Because I think that's what this movie has said to me for the last hour and a half.
I don't know, because I know earlier in the movie he says, like, oh, it's braille, but I can't remember if he says what it actually means.
I don't know. Probably F-U, because that's what the movie is saying to the audience. anyway, so that's about it then. Then there's an all rights and the roof.
And you have the credits where Bullseye's in a cast for some reason.
He's like in this weird, he's in this insane looking contraption at the hospital that can't possibly exist, holding his entire body together, evidently, because every bone is clearly shattered. But he's still good enough to throw a pen. It was a pen, right? Or a pen or a pencil through a fly. And he goes, Bullseye. And I went, oh, great. I'm glad I stuck around for that. One final middle finger to the audience.
I wasn't expecting it. I was very confused when it showed up. I was like, what? What is this?
Well, it's called like they probably were like, oh man, like Spider-Man did all this money, Blade did all this money, Blade got a sequel, X-Men got a sequel. Like we're definitely gonna get Daredevil 2.
Let's keep the only one of the few fun things about Daredevil 1 in play. And no, that's the end of that. And done is the movie. After this movie, I then decided I needed to do something fun with my Friday night because I couldn't have my Friday night. My Friday night could not be completely ruined and wasted. So I played Horizon Forbidden West for another hour. And I'm now officially sunk into that game. Damn it.
Oh,
and
that would have ruined my Friday night. It's like I would rather watch Daredevil than play another hour.
We can discuss another time. But anyway, that's kind of, I decided I need to a palate cleanser, and that was my palate cleanser. So,
I get that 100%. I mean, I completely understand. I'm sorry that you didn't like it though. I mean, I was like, I'm still surprised that I actually enjoyed this movie. Like I went into it like, this is gonna be stupid, and I was like, what the fuck? I'm enjoying this. Like I'm entertained.
Yeah, I've been a pretty big Daredevil apologist over the years. Like I remember seeing it and then like really liking it, and then I was also 18, almost 19. So we're like reading negative criticisms and looking at the box office and being like, why don't people like this? Like I wanted Daredevil 2 when the DVD came out. I had to have it like day one. And then getting the director's cut and finally watching it and thinking like, oh man, this is actually way better. And then I watched it again and I was like, yeah, the first one's not enough, and this is like way too much, because it's cool that they have more stuff, but there's like such a long stretch between him being Daredevil. I can kind of see why they wanted to like speed things up a little. And I think Kevin Feige has a credit in this.
He does.
It might be one of his first ones.
Yeah, it's a production credit. Yep, I saw that. It stood out to me. Yeah, he does. So I don't know. I guess it's hard also to watch a movie like this and put it in time context, because I think it's 5 years later. Is that right? When we get Iron Man? Is it, or am I thinking too far early?
Yeah, no, this is 2003. Iron Man's 2008.
2008. Okay, yeah. But like 5 years later, we get Iron Man. So
well, I mean, 2 years later, you get Batman Begins.
That's true.
And
that
Spider-Man
is
2.
Yes. So we are almost out of the doldrums of Marvel comic book movies. We're finally getting into the better ones where people actually care and make things that are good and have characters.
And again,
arcs.
as we established, like X2 was 3 months later.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess this is really, well, other than Elektra, of course, which evidently is terrible. We are really out of the last gasp of these really bad movies. Although Ghost Rider was before Iron Man, right?
Yeah, Ghost Rider was early 2007.
Yeah, so we're flushing the system. Yeah, so we're flushing the system at this point. So when I watch like an Iron Man, which again is only 5 years after, and just see the leap in quality, just the absolute quantum leap in everything having to do with filmmaking, bar none. It's hard to watch this and not combine the two or compare the two. But I guess taken as an early 2000s comic book movie when this is what they were, no, it's still not good. Sorry, I can't. I can't jump on that bandwagon. But yeah, so we're basically doing shelf stacker box as we speak right now.
Yeah,
so
that's fine. Why don't you go first?
That.
You can
I'll go first
for your part.
Yeah, I'll wrap it. Yeah, I'll wrap it up. I haven't eaten dinner yet, so this will be a perfect opportunity. Now this is definitely a box. This is very forgettable. If it weren't for your notes and my notes, I probably would have forgotten most about this movie, 5 minutes after it. It's not quite a Sub-Zero. I like Jon Favreau. I like Colin Farrell. I like when this movie just goes batshit crazy, but it is not enough of that. And what's left is our central character just not caring, and it's just bland and generic and blah. So yeah, this is gonna be a box. Not a fan, but hey, you know what? It only cost me $4. I'm going to look on the bright side of this experience.
And now you can finally say you've seen Daredevil.
I can. No one will ask me about it because no one remembers this movie. Nobody in my life is going to be like, hey, Bill, you remember that movie Daredevil? And I'm going to be like, you know what? About a year ago, I watched it with my good buddy, Mike Albertin, and Blair Farrell, and didn't like it. I doubt that's going to happen. So,
hey, it's actually been on my list to watch this movie for probably 20 years now. So,
well, Mike, tell us what you thought about it. Are you shelf stacker boxing this? Did it live up to that type of expectation? That length of time?
I had no expectations to be honest. Like I said, I came into this with zero expectation. I'm like, this movie I heard is trash. Mike Hughes likes it a lot. I've heard some people talk good about it. Okay, I'll give it a try. And I walked away entertained. I enjoyed it. I didn't look at my phone. It wasn't for me writing notes. I wasn't even playing Marvel Snap while watching this. And that's credibility to this movie being entertaining that I didn't start playing Marvel Snap, because under the skin, I was playing Marvel Snap. So, I mean that I just was completely I was on board. I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this. And it's going on the shelf. It was a really fun movie to me. And I think the fact that the music hit me too, because I really like all those songs, and it spoke to depressed Mike 10 years ago. When I was I was like, yeah, here, and the music just was bring me, and I'm like, yeah, and everything just hit right, and this movie hit right for me that I could actually watch this again. I won't for a long time, but I could have. I'm really glad I finally saw it. And what about you, Blair?
I think I'm in between. I think I'll put in the stack, even though I have bought this movie twice and I saw it multiple times in theater. I recognize its problems, but it's never disinteresting to me. I think there's enough, I guess, certain things kind of help buoy the bad things. I'd rather watch this than many MCU films and most of the recent DC films, to be honest. I recognize it's not great. The director's cut does a lot to patch a few holes. And I guess for me, I'm just being a little nostalgic, I guess, for the era, because I recognize the movies in the early 2000s were not great, but I still, kind of have the memories of just, going to the cinema and being excited. Because in February back then, you did get a movie like Daredevil. Now we got Ant-Man and Miss Marvel and Black Panther and blockbusters all year round. But from January to May, it was you didn't get a superhero movie. So to have one then was pretty incredible for that time.
And I completely get that. I can completely see and again, this isn't it's not this is a problematic movie or things like that where it's it's nothing, sure, there's a little bit of stuff.
And I still have the CD soundtrack on my shelf, and it still slaps.
Aaron, I will listen. I meant to listen to the soundtrack last night, but again, I got hung up in Horizon Forbidden West, and that was till 12:45 last night. But I am gonna actually listen to the soundtrack and
it's fucking good.
Recollect how it was
on it, Nickelback.
Recollect how it was to be 23 and still think that kind of music was acceptable. I'm sorry, I don't know.
You got to be in the right mood.
I guess
you got to be. If you get out of a really toxic relationship and you work at a really shitty job making $10 an hour in the year 2015. And you're listening to that, it's really good, by the way.
It's fair. You know what? I will listen to it with an open mind, as I do when it comes to music. I try.
Maybe it was 2014.
Yeah, I don't know.
Somewhere
I just
around
that musical style is kind of faded in my memory. As
Oh yeah, I can't go back to it. Like I can only like there are times when I'm really like sad. Like there are times when I go and I'll see my son, and then I have to leave, and I'm just like I'm in a really bad mood because I'm just sad that things are. And I'm like, okay, now we're gonna listen because I want to be with my son. I don't want to be like, but I gotta get home. So then I'm like, okay, I'll put that on. Like, and that's like what I do whenever I'm upset. I'll play some of that music again. But that's
fair.
it.
Hey, that's fair. I totally get that.
It just fits that, right? But God, hearing that during this movie, I'm like, oh,
Well,
man, be back.
I was telling people I had a dentist appointment on Friday, and I swear to God, this actually has a point. So I'm sitting there just like, and they have some radio station. I don't even know. It's not a local one. And it's like country music. And then I'm in the middle of getting my teeth scraped. And then I hear a musical cue and my ears perk up. And it's the Linkin Park song from the end of the first Transformers. And I was so blown away that like this song was in the middle of a dental appointment. I was like, you're going to have to change this because I'm going to open my mouth and gasp and be like, what?
Start singing.
Oh, funny.
That does seem strange of Linkin Park. I'm curious what song it was.
It's
now.
like, it's, you know, like, I am Optimus Prime and I am telling everyone in the galaxy.
I haven't seen that. I don't know if I've even seen that whole movie, to be honest with you.
Oh, for your Patreon dollars, get Mike Albertin to watch 2007's Transformers, actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Parts of it, but I don't know if I've ever seen the whole thing. I've never seen the second movie, but I have seen the third one and a couple after that. I don't know. I got a weird. We actually don't have anything Transformers yet on this podcast. There's no Transformers yet.
Huh.
Now, there actually is a Daredevil episode besides this one. We covered Daredevil Born Again comic a long ass time ago. You see a link in the show notes. But we actually this is like second Daredevil thing, which is also kind of weird. So, and the last thing, because I do want to bring up, because you brought up a good point, Bill, that I want to mention. Like you talked about how like people complain about modern Marvel movies. I completely see where you're coming from. Like modern Marvel movies are, most of them, besides Thor: Love and Thunder, are so much better than like what we like. Even this, like they make more sense. Like this is just not as entertaining. So I completely get where you're coming from.
It's just a different level of quality, and even the bad ones. I think we can all agree that Phase 4 has been less than stellar. Okay, let's be honest.
They're all fine except for Thor: Love and Thunder. They're all even Eternals is better than Thor: Love and Thunder. Is the biggest piece of garbage I've ever seen in a Marvel movie.
I would rather watch Daredevil than Eternals, than Thor 4, than Ant-Man 3.
I didn't see Ant-Man 3 yet.
I haven't
definitely
yet.
would watch this. I'd watch this before Eternals, and I have not seen Lord. I haven't seen either of those because I figure I'll see them eventually for this show.
Mean, say what you will, yes. I do think that like the guy Mark Steven Johnson, he really likes Daredevil.
That's fair.
Like I just think he wanted to do too much with not enough money, because it's like you make a movie and it's like, okay, just make it about the Kingpin or maybe just about Bullseye, and then the sequel is Kingpin. Not like, okay, we're gonna have Elektra and Kingpin and Daredevil, and then a whole subplot about a court case that gets cut out, and Foggy Nelson, and we're gonna do the Elektra death, and
right.
It's just way too much. We think of like Spider-Man, not a year later, and it's just him and the Green Goblin, and that's it.
No, I agree, and I would rather see this than the truly terrible Marvel movies. But and when I say that flippantly. I'll be honest, because again, there are definitely movies in the Marvel MCU that are probably worse than this. There are some actively bad ones, but I don't know, just something about when I watch that and I see what a superhero movie can do, right? It just really strikes me that, I know we all complain about Phase 4 and all, but most of that Phase 4 is still, I think, I'd rather have what we have now than this for the most part. And again, I haven't seen Love and Thunder because I know Mike will make me watch it. And I haven't seen Ant-Man because the reviews were bad and that bummed me out. I didn't want to have my year ruined.
I was the same way.
So
I'm just waiting Disney Plus will get it. I'll just watch it that way.
That's kind of how I've...
Daredevil's cowl is a thing that pulls off as opposed to nanotechnology that just disappears.
That's nice. I agree. And for you, and we've had this conversation before, but as you as a comic book fan, you kind of want that too. You think you've mentioned this, that simpler. Why can't we have the old uniforms and stuff? Or it might have been Michael K. Hughes, but
I want a big doofy DD on the suit. Yes. I don't care where it is.
Right. And that's fair. And I think that's fine. I think there's room for it. But like we've said before on this show, you'll never get that in the MCU. That's just not a thing Marvel will let happen. And I would like that alternate timeline where that does happen. So anyway, for me, I'd rather watch most MCU movies than this by a pretty large margin. But that's just me.
Oh, right. And Bill, where can people find you at?
Oh, little podcast called The Gamer Looks at 40. I recently released an Ask Me Anything and then rest of the schedule for the next couple of months. If you're listening to this, I guess it's going to be next week, according to what Mike said.
Yeah,
so,
it will be.
Yeah, I am currently
I'm
currently recording interviews for the game Earthbound, for memories of renting games at your Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, etc. And the third one, what else am I recording for? I don't remember.
Fantasy.
Well, yeah, Final Fantasy, but that's going to be this never-ending dirt. Oh, Mario Paint is the third one. So, yeah. So if you like any of those, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. Gamer Looks at 40. DMs are open. So if you have memories of any of those three things right now, and maybe Final Fantasy 2, because it's never too early to start recording interviews for a giant series like that's going to be, reach out to me. And if you haven't listened to the show, I think you should. I think it's fabulous. Much better than this movie. I will stake my reputation on that.
Well, yeah, your show is more produced than with love more than this movie was.
Yeah, more care was taken. Fair.
Uh-huh. And Blair, where can people find you at?
You can find me, if it still exists, on Twitter at Blarcade, and you can read my work at comicbookvideogames.com, including a review of the tie-in to this game for Game Boy Advance developed by Kryptonite. I think it's one of my early reviews, so it's probably not the best, but it's there.
I really want to play it now at some point for this show. So, at some point.
I really want a good Daredevil game, but I'm the type of person who wants a Daredevil game that also has Phoenix Wright parts where you have to get evidence while Daredeviling, then do Matt Murdock cases where you have to pick out lies with your super hearing, which wouldn't fly in modern AAA landscape, but that's what I want, goddammit. So is your cat.
She just wants me to give her a treat. She's like, why are you still recording? Feed me, Seymour. That's what she's saying. So, and if you enjoyed this episode, we have over 450 other episodes for you to go listen to. You can find everything on Podbean, and you can search. So go to Podbean, you'll go to my page, and you just type in a movie, comic, video game. You never know. There might be an episode about it. Like, if you type in Daredevil, you'll find other Daredevil. And TMT, type that in too. There's also TMT. There's lots of TMT stuff. So you can go find our whole catalog there. Everything's on Podbean that we do. We do movies, comics, video games, TV shows. If you want to support the show, we do a Patreon, as I mentioned at the top of the episode. We have 2 polls going on right now at the time you're hearing this that run until the end of April. One being Tim Curry movies Mike has never seen, and a couple is a few recovered episodes. You get to choose one of the ones that we'll do. It might not come out in May, but it'll probably come out in June. But at least you can affect the show. So a little for $1, and you support the show. And we have a Discord. You'll see a link in the show notes to that. Please join that too. You can chat with us. And want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Half-Spear. You can follow her on TikTok. She made our music. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. Audio only, but we are on YouTube. I think that's everything I need to say. We will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.